Chapter 3086. Breaking the Array. Activate the Grand Array. Ji Wuming transmitted his voice to the four immortal masters with a cold look in his eyes. Alliance Master, there are still many alchemists and array masters in the square. I don't think it's appropriate for us to activate the Grand Array like this. Huan Taiping replied cautiously. Cut the crap. Listen to me. Zhuowen is not a simple person. Only by activating the Grand Array can we restrain him. Otherwise, we will all be in trouble. Don't hesitate. Zhuowen is coming. Ji Wuming roared in sound transmission with an indescribable majesty. Huan Taiping and the other three great immortal masters no longer hesitated and very tacitly formed the same hand seals. Soon after, the energy in the entire plaza became extremely berserk. The moment the Grand Array was activated, the four immortal masters and Ji Wuming turned into 5 streaks of white light and appeared at the edge of the square. They coldly looked at everyone in the square, especially Zhuowen. Zhuo Wengang landed at the place where the 4 immortal masters were just standing. His feet stomped on the ground, causing the ground to explode. His expression changed slightly when he saw the energy in the square suddenly become violent. He knew that Ji Wuming had activated the Grand Array on the square. Zhuowen was not the only one who was shocked. Countless alchemists and array masters in the square were also shocked. They had never thought that Ji Wuming would dare to activate the Grand Array on the square when they were still in the square. Was he trying to kill them all and make them die with Zhuowen? Puff! The energy in the square became more and more violent. Some of the weaker alchemists and array masters in the square began to vomit blood. Some couldn't withstand the increasingly violent energy. Alliance Master Ji, what do you mean by this? Are you trying to kill us too? 2 people walked out from a group. Judging by their age, they were both middle-aged men. One of them was a man with a big belly. There was a picture of a cauldron on his robe. Apparently, this fat man was the representative of the alchemists. He was a genuine Genesis alchemist. The other one was a skinny man. Judging from the picture on his robe, he should be the representative of the array masters in the square. The one who spoke was the fat man. His eyes were burning with anger as he stared at Ji Wuming and the others at the edge of the square. Ji Wuming's eyes were cold as he said lightly, "Brother Chun, I have my own difficulties. If I don't do this, we will be the ones who will die. But don't worry, I won't let you die in vain. At the very least, Zhuowen will be buried with you. It can be considered as me avenging you." Ji Wuming's words infuriated everyone in the square. What the hell was Ji Wuming talking about? How could he be so thick-skinned? How could he be so shameless? Zhuowen silently watched the conversation between Ji Wuming and the pot-bellied alchemist. He was extremely disgusted by Ji Wuming's shamelessness. "Everyone, if you trust me, you can enter my great world. I can take you out of here." Zhuowen suddenly cupped his hands and said to the many alchemists and god formation masters who were enduring the torture of the array formation behind him. The array formation on the surface of the square was made up of many creation-grade array formations and restrictions, and its power was terrifying beyond compare. However, Zhuowen possessed a divine book, like the true record of alchemy array. In addition to his array Tao level, he could really break the array formation on the square. However, it might take him a long time. He had the Pangu's sacred body, so he could withstand the increasingly violent energy in the array. However, the other alchemists and array masters could not withstand it. They could not hold on for long. Since Zhuowen had already planned to break the array, it was easy for him to help these alchemists and array masters. Moreover, Zhuowen was not afraid of these people causing trouble in his array master's world. The array master's world belonged to Zhuowen. The rules and power system in the array master's world were specially created for Zhuowen. In the outside world, Zhuowen was the supreme ruler. He could control the lives of any living being in the outside world. Although there were many alchemists and formation masters, Zhuowen wasn't worried that they would run amok in the outside world. On the contrary, these people were worried that if Zhuowen's intentions weren't pure, they would be killed when they entered the outside world. Of course, if you're not willing, I won't force you. Zhuowen saw that everyone in the square was hesitating, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he began to observe the surrounding array formations. He recalled the contents of the true alchemy array record. Immortal Master Joie, I'm willing to enter your great world. As long as Immortal Master Joie can help us escape, we're willing to make you the alliance head of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. The big-bellied middle-aged man's eyes flashed with a hint of decisiveness. He immediately came before Joan and knelt on one knee, indicating his current position. After the big-bellied middle-aged man, the skinny man also expressed his position. The big-bellied man and the skinny man were the representatives of the alchemists and formation masters on the square. Both of them were willing to believe in the young man in front of them. The other alchemists and formation masters all followed suit. They all knew that they were in a desperate situation. They could only try their best and give it their all. Joan didn't care about these people at all. He waved his sleeve casually, and a black hole appeared beside him. He said impatiently, I'm just saving people on the way. It's up to you whether you want to enter or not. This is the entrance. Don't disturb me when I'm breaking the array. The big-bellied middle-aged man and the skinny man looked at each other. Clearly, Joan's attitude made them speechless. However, they didn't say anything. They were counting on this person now. How could they dare to fall out with him? The big-bellied man and the skinny man took the lead and entered the black hole. The others naturally didn't dare to fall behind. When the last person entered the black hole, Joan waved his sleeve and turned into a small world of dust attached to his hair. He then took out the True Alchemy Array record and opened the array chapter again. Joan took out 9 Beast Bone Array discs and combined them into an extremely powerful defense restriction. It barely resisted the violent energy around him. He began to use his divine sense to explore the surroundings while reading the True Alchemy Array record. He found that every time he read the True Alchemy Array record, he would gain a lot, especially when he was reading the True Alchemy Array record while breaking the array. This was the most rewarding moment. Joan still wants to break the array. It's like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. There are 81 types of creation-level arrays in the square. They were set up by the previous Alliance Masters. Even if it's me, I'm afraid I can't break this complex array, no matter how much time I spend. Ji Wuming looked at Joan, who was quietly breaking the array in the square. His face was full of sarcasm and mockery. Chapter 3087. The New Alliance Master in the Square. Joan suddenly stood up with a look of enlightenment in his eyes. His eyes were blurred and unfocused, but his movements were swift and decisive. He formed a complicated and obscure seal with both hands. The 9 Beast Bone Array discs turned into 9 beams of black light and shot out in 9 directions around the square. Then, the array in the square shook violently and collapsed in front of Ji Wuming and the other 4. Whoosh! The moment he broke the formation, Joan immediately took out his Ho-E Godly Bow and drew the Ho-E Godly Arrow into a full moon before releasing it. Immediately, the Ho-E Divine Arrow tore through the air, and a terrifying and ear-piercing explosion resounded. Ji Wuming was doused with a bucket of cold water by the arrow's killing intent. He immediately retreated, and the 9 extreme hegemony killing array around him burst into a dazzling light. Bang! The Ho-E Divine Arrow hit the 9 extreme hegemony killing array and lit up with a terrifying light like the scorching sun. Ji Wuming was directly blown away by the terrifying impact. The Divine Arrow was pressed against the surface of the 9 extreme hegemony killing array, and the impact caused Ji Wuming to fly backward faster and faster. Bang! 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 While Ji Wuming was flying backward, the 9 jade slips around him shattered one after another, bursting into rays of light of different colors. No! When the last jade slip exploded, the 9 extreme hegemony killing array was completely shattered, and the Ho-E Divine Arrow directly pierced through Ji Wuming. After Ji Wuming's death, the 4 immortal masters fled in different directions without a second thought. Joan summoned the Thunderfire Sword, the Sacrificial Death Sword, and the Blood Immortal Sword, and killed 3 immortal masters in 3 different directions. Meanwhile, Zhuowen took out an ordinary arrow and shot it at Huan Taiping. Immortal Master Zhua, I have no enmity with you. When the Alliance Master wanted to kill you, I pleaded for mercy. Please let me go. Huan Taiping felt the arrow coming closer and closer behind him. He was scared out of his wits and hurriedly begged for mercy. Unfortunately, just as Huan Taiping finished speaking, the divine arrow had already pierced through the back of his head, taking his life with one arrow. After killing the 4 celestial masters, Zhuowen returned to the square. With a wave of his sleeve, he brought everyone out from the outside world. He then sat down cross-legged on the spot. Just now, when he was deciphering the array formation in the plaza, he had read through the true record of alchemy arrays. He felt that he would be able to make a breakthrough after digesting it. After all, his array formation level had already reached that level. After the pot-bellied man and the skinny man led the group of alchemists and formation masters out, the first thing they saw was the dilapidated square. The second thing he saw was a figure sitting cross-legged in the middle of the square, surrounded by 3 divine swords. They were no strangers to this figure. It was none other than Zhuowen. Was the battle over? Ji Wuming is dead? The pot-bellied man saw an incomplete body not far away. From the tattered clothes on the body, he recognized that it was Ji Wuming. In other words, Ji Wuming was killed by this boy. How long had it been? Not only did this guy decipher the array formation, but he also killed Ji Wuming and the 4 celestial masters. This guy was definitely a ruthless character. Not only the pot-bellied man, but everyone who came out of the outside world looked at Zhuowen with fear in their eyes. Step back, all of you. This is my little brother, and I'll protect him. If you dare to act recklessly, don't blame this Master Long for falling out with you. Xiao He sat on the hilt of the Thunderfire sword and looked at the people around him fiercely. The pot-bellied man and the others were so scared that they didn't dare to come close. Soon, a dense energy emerged around Zhuowen and descended from the sky. Immediately, Zhuowen's hands quickly formed a seal, and the 9 beast bone array discs drew a ghostly trajectory in the air. The outline of an array formation reappeared around the square. A starry sky appeared above the array, and under the starry sky, a raging fire burned fiercely. The starry sky and the primordial fire complemented each other, forming a strange scene. An extremely terrifying and vast aura emerged from the array. This is the Starry Night Primordial Fire Array. Is this boy going to become a divine array master of the creation realm? The pot-bellied man was so excited that his belly kept shaking and ripples appeared on it. It was a funny sight. However, no one in the surroundings laughed at the man because their gazes were all focused on Zhuowen. Ji Wuming was recognized as the #1 divine array master and pill master in the host region. This was because Ji Wuming's array Dao and pill Dao had both reached the creation realm, and he could refine creation divine pills in great arrays. However, this young man's array Dao had also reached Ji Wuming's level, and he was so young. It was unbelievable. Celestial Master Zhua, we are willing to make you the leader of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Please accept. The pot-bellied man and the skinny man stepped out of the crowd and bowed respectfully to Zhuowen. The reverence in their eyes was even more intense. The others also lowered their heads and willingly declared that they were willing to let Zhuowen succeed them as the new leader of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Everyone could see that Zhuowen was much more powerful than Ji Wuming. Moreover, he was very talented, and it was not impossible for him to become a divine array master in the future. If he really did become a divine array master, he would stand at the peak of the Xianmi heavenly region and lead the Pill Array Immortal Alliance to greater heights. Zhuowen was stunned. He did not expect these people to really want to make him the leader of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Even though this group of people's cultivation wasn't high, their Pill Dao and Array Dao standards were definitely in the upper echelons of the Xianmi heavenly region. They were not only members of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, but they were also scattered across various powers. They were all Pill Array masters of their respective powers. This group of people represented most of the factions in the host region. This was also why the Pill Array Immortal Alliance had such a large influence in the host region. It was mainly because of the existence of this group of people. The existence of these people maintained the subtle relationship between the Pill Array Immortal Alliance and the various factions in the host region. It had to be said that Ji Wuming was very courageous. In order to eliminate Zhuowen, he was willing to risk damaging his relationship with the various factions and was willing to give up this group of elites. If everyone is willing to let me lead you, I, Zhuowen, will naturally accept. I, Zhuowen, can guarantee that as long as you are sincerely willing to follow me, I will continue to develop the Pill Array Immortal Alliance and bring it to greater heights. Zhuowen's voice was not loud, but it was full of energy. His body emitted a faint, majestic aura, which made many of the cultivators present feel slightly at ease. Alliance Leader. The ceremony for the new Alliance Leader requires the Pill Array Masters and Array Dao Masters of the host region to vote together. Then, the Pill Array Dao region will send people over to test whether you are suitable to be the Alliance Leader of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. The pot-bellied man stepped out of the crowd and whispered to Zhuowen, "What's your name?" Zhuowen had a good impression of the pot-bellied man. Not only was this person good, but his character was also not bad. This could be seen from the way he questioned Ji Wuming. Chapter 3088. The Ruthless Sakyamuni. So you're the alchemist of the sun-chasing temple. I'm planning to go to the sun-chasing temple. You can come with me then, Zhuowen said with a smile. When Zhou heard that, he immediately beamed with joy and hurriedly agreed. The young man in front of him was already the new alliance leader of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, although this matter had not yet been reported to the Pill Array Dao region. Zhou Guan believed that with Zhuowen's ability, passing the assessment of the people sent by the Pill Array Dao region was a piece of cake. A new leader would definitely need a capable assistant. Zhou Guan obviously knew this. If he could get along with Zhuowen, then his future would be limitless. Zhuowen nodded and immediately looked at the skinny man. The skinny man had a high prestige in the crowd and was comparable to Zhou Guan. He was a Genesis-level Array Dao Master. I'm the Scarlet Mountain Villa's Array Dao Master, Feng Yuan. Greetings, Alliance Leader Zhua. Feng Yuan was more taciturn. Previously, when Zhuowen did not greet him, he did not say a word. Now that he saw Zhuowen looking over, he immediately introduced himself in fear. Feng Yuan, I need to go to the sun-chasing temple for a while. During my absence, I hope you can temporarily take over the Pill Array Immortal Alliance and repair this square. After Zhuowen finished speaking, Zhou Guan, who was standing beside Zhuowen, immediately said, Feng Yuan, there's also the matter of the new alliance leader. I need you to communicate with the person in charge of the alchemy Array Dao region. Feng Yuan nodded and said meticulously, Alliance leader, Brother Zhou, don't worry. I'll communicate with the Pill Array Dao region. I think they'll send someone over soon. After Zhou Guan gave Feng Yuan some instructions, he followed Zhuowen and left the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Within the secret chamber of the Yin Corpse sect, Senki Yin sat in the middle of a pool of blood. The blood pool seemed to be boiling as many blood bubbles appeared. These blood bubbles slowly rose up and merged into Senki Yin's body. Senki Yin's eyes were slightly closed. His face was red as if he was drunk. About an hour later, Senki Yin's body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He opened his eyes, which were filled with resentment. The side effects of blood shadow evasion are too great. My realm is still falling. Senki Yin's expression was ugly. It had been some time since he was reborn in the blood pool. In the beginning, his cultivation had already fallen from the early Lord of Heaven span to the peak Lord of Creation. Right now, his cultivation level was only at the early stage Lord of Creation realm, and this decline was still continuing. Senki Yin began to panic. If his cultivation level continued to fall, he wouldn't even be able to maintain his cultivation level as a Lord of Creation. During this period, Senki Yin had tried many methods. He even stayed in the blood pool and continuously absorbed the energy within, but he still couldn't stop his cultivation level from falling. Dong dong dong. Someone knocked on the secret chamber's stone door, attracting Senki Yin's attention. "Come in." Senki Yin calmed down and said indifferently. The stone door was pushed open, and a young man with a golden vertical mark between his eyebrows walked in excitedly. The young man seemed to be unable to contain his joy. He stepped to the edge of the blood pool, his eyes filled with excitement. Senki Yin frowned slightly and said in a low voice, "Sakyamuni, why have you come to the secret chamber? Didn't I say that if there's nothing important, don't disturb me again?" The young man with the golden vertical mark between his eyebrows was Sakyamuni. Sakyamuni regained his composure and bowed respectfully to Senki Yin. "Sect Master, I was too rude. Tell me, what's the good news? Why did you lose your cool?" Senki Yin's expression eased slightly, and his tone was calm as he asked. "Sect Master, I broke through again." Sakyamuni's voice was filled with unconcealable joy. "So fast. I remember that you just advanced to the early stage Lord of Creation realm not long ago. You actually broke through again and reached the mid-stage Lord of Creation realm?" Senki Yin looked at Sakyamuni in disbelief. The latter's talent was a little too powerful. Every cultivation level in the third step of Dao validation was very difficult, and it required a very long time to break through. According to the cultivation speed of ordinary cultivators, it would take at least 1,000 years to advance from the early stage Lord of Creation realm to the mid-stage Lord of Creation realm. However, it had only been less than half a year since Sakyamuni had broken through. Sakyamuni took a deep look at Senki Yin before lowering his head and suddenly asking, "Sect Master, how are your injuries?" Senki Yin's gaze was cold as he said, "They're more or less healed. I should be able to recover to my peak after a while." "That's good." Sakyamuni nodded and took out a golden Ganoderma from his spirit ring. This Ganoderma was like a blazing sun, and complex patterns appeared on its surface, forming a special law. "Sect Master, I found this golden blood Ganoderma by accident. It said that it's extremely beneficial for healing. I have no use for it, so I'll give it to you as a gift." As he spoke, Sakyamuni handed the golden blood Ganoderma to Senki Yin. Senki Yin floated in the center of the blood pool, and his heart burned with passion the instant he saw the golden blood Ganoderma. The golden blood Ganoderma was a creation-level divine medicine, and it was also an extremely powerful divine medicine for healing. If it was Senki Yin's previous realm, the golden blood Ganoderma would not be of much use to him. But now that his realm had fallen to the early stage of the creation level, his injuries were extremely serious. This golden blood Ganoderma would be of great use to him. However, Senki Yin did not show his emotions on his face. Instead, he accepted the golden blood Ganoderma without batting an eyelid. "You're too kind. Haven't you always wanted to become an elder of the 10 Extremes Yin Corp sect? I'll now specially appoint you as the new Grand Elder of the 10 Extremes Yin Corp sect. Your position is only below mine." Senki Yin said indifferently. Sakyamuni was wild with joy. He hurriedly came before Senki Yin and knelt down on one knee. Senki Yin was very satisfied with Sakyamuni's performance, but soon his expression changed. A powerful force suddenly came from below him and blasted towards him. Senki Yin was caught off guard and was directly hit in the chest by the force. Senki Yin spat out a mouthful of blood. His chest exploded, and a large amount of blood mist burst out. Bang! Senki Yin crashed into the rock wall behind him. Smoke and dust flew everywhere. Cough, cough, cough. Senki Yin spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed to the ground. He raised his head and stared at Sakyamuni in front of him. The force, just now, was Sakyamuni's sudden sneak attack. He had punched Senki Yin's chest and almost blasted Senki Yin's right chest into smithereens. "Your realm." Senki Yin struggled to get up and stared at Sakyamuni in front of him. At this moment, Sakyamuni's entire body was filled with energy. He was like a storm that could erupt at any time. Every step he took caused a huge commotion. It was as if the entire stone room was trembling because of him. "Sect Master, you might have misunderstood me. I've indeed broken through, but I haven't broken through to the mid-stage of the Lord of Creation. I've broken through to the early stage of the Lord of Creation. I'm not wrong. Your realm has been falling. Now, you're only at the early stage of the Lord of Creation. Chapter 3089. Startling news. Sakymuni's attack whistled over like a furious dragon. Senki-in let out a sharp howl as he transformed into a blood-red shadow and fled towards the exit. Unfortunately, Senki-in was immediately blasted back by a powerful bolt of lightning as soon as he entered the exit. A creation-grade grand formation? Senki-in was stunned. During this moment of shock, Sakymuni's next attack had already descended on his Senki-in's shoulder. Senki-in staggered as Sakymuni's fist pierced through his shoulder, and he was buried face down into the ground. Senki-in was just about to crawl up when Sakyamune stomped down forcefully on Senki-in's spine, causing Senki-in to fall face down onto the ground once more. No matter how he struggled, he was actually unable to get up. How can you be so strong? In your cultivation, Senki-in's face was ghastly pale, and his entire body was trembling. He was still in a dazed state. He couldn't figure out how Sakyamune's cultivation had advanced so quickly. Even a genius with a heaven-grade ancestral Tao root wouldn't be able to advance as quickly as Sakyamune. Haha, Secmaster, you might have misunderstood something. My cultivation was already at the peak of the God of Creation realm before you headed to the battlefield in the stars. I just intentionally concealed it. Sakyamune's gaze was high and mighty, as if he was looking down at Senki-in, and his voice was icy cold and emotionless. You've been coveting the position of Secmaster of the 10 Extremes In Corpse sect since a long time ago. You're really scheming. To think that I even fostered you as my successor. To tell you the truth, the position of Sectmaster will be yours sooner or later. Senki-in's gaze was gloomy, and his tone was slightly soft. Haha, the position of Sectmaster? Sakyamune roared with laughter, and his gaze was filled with disdain. A mere 10 Extremes In Corpse sect is nothing to me. Senki-in, let me tell you the secret I possess. My ancestral Tao root can evolve. When I joined the 10 Extremes In Corpse sect, my ancestral Tao root was already at the heaven grade. Moreover, during these years of cultivation in the 10 Extremes In Corpse sect, my ancestral Tao root evolved once more, and it has already surpassed the heaven grade and entered an extremely profound state. It's precisely because I possess a super heaven grade ancestral Tao root that my cultivation speed is so swift that even I am surprised. Senki-in, my future is bound to be extraordinary. I will become the heavens and earth and become the strongest expert in the end. No one can stop my footsteps. Sun-Chin opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. He felt that the Sakura in front of him had become extremely unfamiliar. Sakyamune's corpse sect and 99's In Corpse 10-10-10's was worthless in Heaven's 10, was nothing to Sukuni's S of him. Of Lin. Sakyamune, you don't have to kill me. I can plant a slave imprint in my soul and make me work for you. Senki-in calmed down and analyzed. Sakyamune grinned, shook his head, and said, Senki-in, you still don't understand what I mean. I'm not attacking for the position of Sectmaster of the 10 Extremes In Corpse sect, and it's because I need your energy. My physique is very special. I can devour living beings that cultivate and convert their core energy into my own energy without any side effects. The higher the cultivation of the living being, the greater the effect it has on my physique. Senki-in's expression changed. So Sakyamune actually had such an idea. Coldness filled his heart, and he felt unprecedented fear. What exactly is Sakyamune's physique? It's actually so strange that he can devour living beings to cultivate quickly without any side effects. This defies common sense. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Come in now. Sakyamune didn't speak anymore. The vertical slit between his brows suddenly opened, revealing a golden eyeball hidden inside. A beam of golden light shot out from the golden eyeball and landed in the void, forming a golden circle. This golden circle was like a golden mouth. As it opened and closed, it swallowed Senki-in. Sankey had already burned his essence blood, wanting to escape from the golden circle. Unfortunately, Sakyamuni wouldn't give him any chance at all. He forcefully suppressed him and sent him in. After devouring Sankey, I need some time to digest. Then I should be able to smoothly break through to the mid-stage of the creation realm. Sakyamuni licked his lips and chuckled to himself. Sankey-Yin's vision is too narrow. He will never know that even if he cultivates to the heavenly master realm in the Xianmi heavenly region, so what? In my opinion, he's still just a frog at the bottom of a well. A true great world is far more exciting than the Xianmi heavenly region. As for that Zhuan, although he made me suffer a few times in the past, he's still just a frog at the bottom of a well. In the future, I'll leave him further and further behind. He'll be on a completely different level from me. With that, Sakyamuni put away the golden circle and left the secret room. Alliance Master, there's still half a day before we reach the sun-chasing shrine. On the deck of the flying divine tool, Zhou Guan stood behind Zhuan and pointed ahead as he introduced the place to Zhuan. Zhou Guan, when we reach the sun-chasing shrine, you don't have to call me Alliance Master. Just call me Brother Zhua. After all, the people of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance haven't really approved it yet. Whether I can become the Alliance Master is still uncertain, Zhuan said. Zhou Guan hesitated for a while, but seeing that Zhuan had already made up his mind, he could only nod and agree. Suddenly, Zhou Guan's communication jade talisman lit up. He flipped open the jade talisman and looked at it with a serious expression. Brother Zhua, previously you asked me to investigate the 10 Extremes Corp sect. Now there's news. It said that the 10 Extremes Corp sect has sealed off the sect. It's almost impossible for them to communicate with the outside world. Zhuan's expression was calm. He wasn't surprised that Sankey had sealed off the sect. This also showed that Sankey was really afraid of him. However, Zhuan didn't plan to attack the 10 Extremes Corp sect. After all, it was a Dao Palace level force, which was much stronger than the Blood Prison. If he attacked alone, he would have to pay a huge price, and he might not be able to take it down. Unless his strength had reached the level of the Master of Heaven Piercing. If he attacked now, the 10 Extremes Corp sect would definitely suffer. Of course, when his strength reached that level in the future, he would choose to attack directly and destroy this shameless sect. Zhou Guan glanced at Zhuan and continued, Brother Zhua, there's also news about the Naughty Shiva. It said that the Naughty Shiva officially became the new sect leader of the 10 Extremes Corp sect a few days ago. Sakyamuni became the new sect leader? What about Sankey? Zhuan was stunned and found it strange. The Naughty Shiva's talent was indeed strong, but he probably hadn't reached the third step of Dao validation yet. How could he be qualified to become the sect leader of the 10 Extremes Corp sect? It said that Sankey is in seclusion. He named Sakyamuni as the new sect leader, and it said that the Naughty Shiva's cultivation is already at the creator realm. No one in the 10 Extremes Corp's sect objected. Chapter 3090. Pill Battlezhuan's expression was solemn. Sakyamuni's cultivation progress was a little too fast. His human main body had encountered many fortuitous encounters over the years and obtained many inheritances. That was why his cultivation had broken through repeatedly and only reached the eternal overlord realm. However, the Naughty Shiva had been cultivating in the sect for most of his life. Yet, his cultivation had surpassed his main body and reached the creation overlord realm. This was a little unbelievable. Sakyamuni's cultivation progress surprised Zhuan and even made him feel pressured. This, in turn, inspired him to become stronger. Of course, it was fine if the Naughty Shiva didn't cause trouble for him. Otherwise, Zhuan wouldn't mind teaching the Naughty Shiva a lesson. Half a day later, Zhuan and Zhou Guan arrived at the Sun-Chasing Temple. Because Zhou Guan was the Sun-Chasing Temple's #1 pill refiner, the two didn't encounter any obstacles when entering the temple. Instead, they were warmly welcomed. When they passed by a square, Zhuan was immediately attracted by the crowd gathered in the center of the square. There was a high platform in the center of the square. on which two huge pill furnaces were placed. Next to the two pill furnaces sat a man and a woman respectively. The man and woman sat facing each other, releasing divine fire from their hands and placing it under the pill furnaces. Thick white smoke rose from the pill furnaces' lids, and a medicinal fragrance lingered in the square, refreshing the heart. Clearly, the man and woman were having a pill battle. From the medicinal fragrance, Zhuowen could tell that the divine pills they were refining were the same. They were both called the One Revolution with Sage Pill. The One Revolution with Sage Pill was only a primordial Tao Divine pill. Pill refiners at Zhuowen and Zhouguan's level didn't care about such a divine pill at all. It was too low level. Zhuowen was paying attention to the high platform because the man in the middle of the pill battle was someone he knew. He had met Jiang Qixing in the astral battlefield and was also the sun-chasing temple's #1 genius. Zhuowen hadn't expected Jiang Qixing to know alchemy. Haha, Brother Zhuo, these two are my disciples. That man is Jiang Qixing, the person with the strongest martial talent in the sun-chasing temple. He's very interested in alchemy, so he shamelessly followed me to learn alchemy. Zhouguan saw Zhuowen looking at the two people in the middle of the square and couldn't help but introduce the man and woman. When Zhouguan introduced Jiang Qixing, his expression was still very calm, but when he introduced the woman, his voice clearly fluctuated. Xian is my personal disciple. Her talent in alchemy is really strong. She has only been learning alchemy from me for less than 300 years, but she has already proven her Tao in alchemy and become a primordial Tao array master. Her primordial Tao, Zhou said. Zhouguan's Tao. There was pride in Zhouguan's eyes. Obviously, he was very satisfied with Xian. Zhuowen nodded. His eyes were much sharper than Zhouguan's. He could see at a glance that Xian's refining technique was much more skillful than Jiang Qixing's. Jiang Qixing was bound to lose this pill battle. Bang! Suddenly, there was a muffled sound, and a cloud of black smoke came out of the pill furnace in front of Jiang Qixing. Jiang Qixing's expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly retreated. The pill furnace also exploded in an instant. The moment Jiang Qixing's pill furnace exploded, Xian quickly patted the lid of the furnace. 12 pills flew out of the furnace and were caught by Xian and put into a jade bottle. Senior Brother Jiang, I won this time. According to the bet, you owe me a favor. Xian shook the jade bottle in her hand and playfully stuck out her tongue at Jiang Qixing, who looked helpless in front of her. I admit defeat. Jiang Qixing shrugged and raised his hands in surrender, causing Xian to giggle. Zhuowen saw this and laughed inwardly. Xian clearly liked Jiang Qixing, but the latter was a bit of a blockhead and didn't see it. Xian, Qixing, Zhouguan shouted at Jiang Qixing. Everyone followed the voice and came over. When they saw Zhouguan, they all showed respect. Zhouguan was the #1 pill refiner in the sun-chasing temple. He was a genuine Genesis pill refiner. Even in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, Zhouguan's position was very high, second only to the 4 immortal masters. Master, Xian and Jiang Qixing hurriedly ran over and bowed to Zhouguan. Brother Long? Jiang Qixing noticed Zhuowen beside Zhouguan and was immediately stunned. Then, he became ecstatic. You know each other? Zhouguan looked at the ecstatic Jiang Qixing in surprise. Master, he's Long One, the one I mentioned to you before. Jiang Qixing said, could it be that Long, one who used the Starry Sky Pagoda to expel the alien army by himself? Zhouguan was a bit dizzy. Ever since Jiang Qixing came back and told him what happened in the Starry Sky Pagoda, his respect for Long One was like a torrential river. He had always wanted to see Long One and express his respect for him. However, he really didn't expect that Long One, who he had always wanted to see, would be right next to him. It was simply fate making fun of people. Brother Jiang, you can just call me Zhuowen in the future. Long One is just an alias I used to go to the Starry Sky battlefield. Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Jiang Qixing nodded and wasn't surprised. Back then, Senki Yin had already revealed Zhuowen's real name. However, he was already used to it, so he had always called him Long One. Brother Zhuo, I've long heard of your great name. and I've always wanted to thank you. However, I didn't expect you to be right next to me. I'm really sorry. Zhou gaze was very serious as he bowed deeply to Zhuowen. His etiquette was very thorough and very strict. Brother Zhou, you're too polite. It's just a small matter to me, Zhuowen said with a bitter smile. However, Zhou was very serious and said, Brother Zhou, no matter whether it's a small matter to you or not, it's a big matter to me and the human race. You're the one who saved the human race. This is a huge favor. Did you really defeat the alien army? I heard that the alien army was very terrifying at that time. Even the 4 Dao Lords guarding the camps had no choice but to retreat. The alien army even occupied 2 camps. Under such circumstances, you were actually able to turn the situation around. It's really unbelievable. Ziyan's large eyes blinked as she stared straight at Zhuowen. Her beautiful eyes were filled with interest and curiosity. Ziyan, don't be rude. Brother Zhou is the benefactor of the human race. If it weren't for him, the alien race would have already begun to invade the Xianmi heavenly domain. At that time, we would all be in trouble, Zhou Guan scolded seriously. Ziyan shrunk her neck and lowered her head. She was a little dejected. Brother Zhou, you don't have to be like this. Since we're both part of the human race, I naturally can't watch the alien race wantonly invade our territory. If it were you, you would do the same. Zhuowen shook his head and said, Brother Zhou, you're really strong, but I'm powerless. Wait for me here first. I'll help you inform the sect master. The sect master is also a reasonable person. If Brother Zhou needs anything, we'll definitely satisfy you. We definitely won't refuse. Chapter 30-91. Question Sect Master Ho Tiangang was sitting on the main seat in the conference hall of the Sun-Chasing Temple. Sitting on Ho Tiangong's left was the Sun-Chasing Temple's #1 alchemist, Zhou Guan, while the seat on Ho Tiangong's right was empty. Sitting on both sides of the hall were the higher-ups of the Sun-Chasing Temple, but they all looked puzzled. Although the Sun-Chasing Temple had the habit of holding regular meetings, they only held them once every 3 months. This time, only a month had passed since the last meeting, but the sect master had called them for a meeting again, which made them a little confused. However, since Ho Tiangang sat on the main seat, he became mute and didn't say a word. The others also didn't dare to speak casually. Suddenly, the crisp sound of footsteps came from outside the ceremony hall. A young man slowly walked in with a calm expression, like an ancient well without any ripples. The upper echelons in the hall all looked at the young man, walking over with puzzlement. This young man was simply too unfamiliar to them. On the contrary, they were very familiar with the man and woman behind the young man. Jiang Qixing and Ziyan were the top geniuses of the Sun-Chasing Temple. One was a martial arts genius, while the other was an alchemy genius. They were both influential figures in the Sun-Chasing Temple. But what made many higher-ups in the hall frown was that these 2 geniuses who represented the Sun-Chasing Temple were actually following behind this strange young man. They looked very respectful, as if they were his underlings. Humph! Who is this person? Doesn't he know any etiquette? The old man sitting on the left snorted coldly, very displeased with the strange young man walking in front of Jiang Qixing and Ziyan. This old man obviously had a higher prestige, and the rest of the people in the hall also echoed. Don't be rude, Ho Tiangang, who was sitting on the main seat, said coldly, and the discussion in the hall suddenly disappeared. All the higher-ups looked at Ho Tiangang in surprise. The old man was even more puzzled, not knowing why Ho Tiangang suddenly scolded them. Could it be that they were talking about the strange young man and made Ho Tiangang unhappy? Ho Tiangang stood up the moment the unfamiliar young man entered the hall. He went up to him and said with a smile, Alliance Master Zhou, welcome everyone. I apologize for not welcoming you earlier. Ho Tiangong's declaration caused an uproar in the hall. Everyone was shocked by Ho Tiangong's attitude. Everyone reacted. They understood that the reason Ho Tiangang suddenly summoned them was most likely related to this unfamiliar youth in front of them. This caused many people to begin guessing the identity and background of this unfamiliar young man. Zhou Guan, who was sitting on the left, also stood up and followed behind Ho Tiangang with a smile on his face. Everyone in the hall could even see the cautiousness and flattery in Zhou Guan's eyes. This made everyone even more bewildered, and the way they looked at this unfamiliar young man changed greatly. Ho Tiangang personally led the strange young man to the right side seat, while Jiang Qixing and Ziyan were arranged to sit in the seats below. Sect leader, who is this person? Can you introduce him to us? After the unfamiliar young man sat down, the old man on the left stood up and cupped his fist towards Ho Tiangang as he asked. Everyone else also looked at Ho Tiangang curiously. Ho Tiangang laughed and said, "Everyone should have heard about what happened in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance." Yes, it said that the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's Ji Wuming went crazy. In order to kill their fifth celestial master, Zhuowen, he actually activated the Plaza's array. He planned to bury all the alchemists and divine array masters who participated in the Tao discussion conference together with Zhuowen. Later, Zhuowen turned the tide and broke the array, saving everyone. He also killed Ji Wuming and the four celestial masters, and was elected as the new alliance master. The old man nodded and recounted the events that happened in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. This is the Zhuowen you mentioned. He's also the new alliance master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Ho Tiangang laughed and pointed at Zhuowen. Everyone in the hall was shocked and looked at Zhuowen, who was sitting on the right side seat. So it's Alliance Master Zhua. I was rude just now. The old man nodded and cupped his fists at Zhuowen. Then, he sat back down and did not say a word. The old man was obviously depressed. Everyone might not know about Alliance Master Zhua's other identity. His background is even greater, Ho Tiangang said again, which piqued everyone's interest. In the Battle of the Stars, the human race fought against the alien race. Everyone should know that we were no match for the alien race. The eastern and northern Starry Sky camps were destroyed, and the host region was at risk of being invaded by the alien race. However, when the human race was in such a desperate situation, a rogue cultivator named Long mobilized the Starry Sky Tower's cannons and defeated the alien race's army. The alien race's leaders suffered heavy casualties. In the end, the battle between the human race and the alien race was turned around, and the alien race was utterly defeated. The hall became lively as soon as Ho Tiangang said that. Everyone praised Long endlessly when they mentioned a reversal in the Battle of the Stars. If Long hadn't intervened at the last moment, the host region would have suffered a calamity. In the Xianmi Sky region, the cultivators of the host region and northern Dao region respected Long. Their evaluation of Long even surpassed that of the four Dao masters. The Long you're familiar with is Alliance Master Zhua's other identity. His name in the Starry Sky battlefield is Long One. Ho Tiangong's last sentence was like a heavy bomb, and the entire hall was in an uproar. Secmaster, you're not lying to us, are you? That Long One has always been elusive and mysterious. Is this person really that Long One? Yes, I have some doubts too. After all, there's no proof. The hall was very lively, but there were more doubts in the discussion. Zhuowen had been sitting in the assistant seat the whole time. He silently looked at the noisy hall. He already understood why Ho Tiangang asked him to come to the meeting hall to discuss the matter of the Red Sun pill. It turned out that Ho Tiangang suspected his other identity. However, it wasn't convenient for Ho Tiangang to say it, so he used this meeting to let the higher-ups raise their doubts. Brother Zhua is indeed Long One. I saw Brother Zhua activate the Starry Sky Pagoda Cannon on the battlefield and defeat the foreign race army with my own eyes. Jiang Qixing stood up from his seat and began to defend Zhuowen. Qixing, I'm not suspecting Alliance Master Zhua, but I want him to prove his identity as Long One. If he is, then we won't say anything, but if he isn't, The old man on the left was very active and interrupted Jiang Qixing's words. Zhuowen looked at Ho Tiangang and Zhou Guan and said indifferently, You too. I didn't come to the sun-chasing temple to prove that I'm Long One. My purpose is the Red Sun pill. This thing has nothing to do with whether I'm long one or not, right? Chapter 3092. Secrets. The hall was completely silent, and Ho Tiangang finally broke the silence. Ho Tiangang smiled and said, Alliance Master Zhua, I already know why you're here. To tell you the truth, that pill Dawn Azure Sun Red has already withered. Even if I give it to you, you won't be able to use it. That's fine. As long as Sect Master Ho is willing to give this pill Dawn Azure Sun Red to me, I won't let you suffer a loss. This thing is very important to me, Zhuowen said in a deep voice. Ho Tiangang fell silent and rubbed his hands. The atmosphere in the hall suddenly became subtle. Zhou Guan, who was sitting on the left side, revealed a helpless expression and secretly transmitted his voice to Zhuowen. Alliance Master, I've already discussed this matter with Sect Master several times. He believes that this pill, Dawn Azure Sun Red, is very important and won't easily take it out. However, if you can prove that you're a long one, you will receive the respect of everyone in the hall. The chances of Sect Master taking out the pill Dawn Azure Sun Red to give it to you are very high. Zhuowen glanced at Zhou Guan. He knew that Zhou Guan was reminding him. Ever since the battle in the Starry Sky Tower, Long Wen's reputation in the human race was too great. Almost everyone was looking for Long Wen. If they could really come into contact with Long Wen, it would be icing on the cake for any faction in the Xianmi Heavenly Domain. However, if they came into contact with a fake Long Wen and were found out, they would probably be reduced to a laughingstock. That was why Ho Tiangang was so cautious. He suspected that Zhuowen didn't have another identity called Long Wen. Everyone, since all of you are aware of Long Wen, you should also be aware that Long Wen has done an earth-shaking thing. Right? Zhuowen suddenly stood up. He looked around him and spoke in a faint voice. An earth-shattering thing? I've heard that Zhuowen seems to have captured the Phoenix People's Saintess. That's why the foreign races were chasing after him. The first old man on the left said. Zhuowen waved his sleeve and released the Phoenix People's Saintess from the outside world. The Phoenix People's Saintess was bound in thick chains. The moment she appeared, the temperature in the hall rose to a terrifying level. It was as if the entire hall was in a furnace. This is the Phoenix People's Saintess? Ho's face stiffened. Although he had never seen the Saintess of the Phoenix People, he had collected information about the Phoenix People's Saintess during the Foreign Races War. Therefore, the moment the chained Saintess appeared in front of him, he knew that she was the genuine Saintess of the Phoenix clan. Long Wen, what are you doing? The Phoenix clan's holy maiden's eyes were a little confused. Then, she glared at Long Wen, who was beside her. It's Saintess, the Saintessess Dawness. You to be The Saintess of the Phoenix People's Saintess was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. A ball of fire appeared in her beautiful eyes and shot out toward Zhuowen. Zhuowen flicked his finger, and the ball of fire was immediately deflected. The chains on the Phoenix People's Saintess lit up with a scarlet light. The Phoenix People's Saintess groaned in pain. Her beautiful body writhed and looked extremely seductive. Zhuowen waved his sleeve and put the Phoenix People's Saintess back into the outside world. Then, he looked at the embarrassed Ho Tiangang, who was sitting on the main seat. Brother Long Wen, I was rude just now. Please forgive me. You know that your identity is very important to the human race, so I have to be careful when dealing with your identity. Ho Tiangang quickly stood up and walked toward Zhuowen. He bowed 90 degrees and apologized sincerely. Everyone in the hall stood up and bowed to Zhuowen in apology. Zhuowen had proven his identity and deserved their respect. Sect Leader Ho is too polite. I came to disturb you this time because the pill Glow Green Sun Red is very important to me. As long as Sect Leader Ho is willing to hand it over to me, I, Zhuowen, will not let you suffer a loss. Zhuowen also cupped his hands toward Ho Tiangang. He was not angry about the latter's behavior. Zhuowen was not angry. If it were him, he would not easily believe the one-sided words of others. Alliance Leader Zhua, I'm afraid this will be a little difficult. How about this? You come with me first. Ho Tiangang was a little hesitant. He signaled everyone in the hall to leave. Only Ho Tiangang, Zhou Guan, and Zhuowen were left in the hall. Zhuowen did not speak. He just looked at Ho Tiangang. He knew that what the latter was going to say next should be related to the green sun red pill. Alliance leader Zhua, our chasing sun temple indeed obtained the green sun red pill, this kind of heaven-reaching divine medicine, by chance. However, that green sun red pill is indeed constantly withering. Ho Tiangang said, I know about this. Zhuowen said. Ho Tiangang smiled bitterly and said, even if the green sun red pill is withering, I can still bring you to take a look. But now, I'm afraid I can't do it. Why is that? Zhuowen asked in surprise. You come with me to take a look, and you'll know. Ho Tiangang did not speak anymore. He led Zhuowen out of the hall. Walking out of the hall, they passed through a very remote and narrow path. The three people walked for 2 hours. Ho Tiangang stopped at the end of the path. He saw that at the end stood an arched stone door made of white marble. However, the white marble on the surface of the arched stone door was somewhat yellowed. Clearly, it was very old. On the other side of the arched stone door was a dark and empty space. The moment Zhuowen saw the arched stone door, he used his divine sense to explore the dark space behind the arched stone door. However, he found that his divine sense was actually suppressed in the dark space. Furthermore, he sensed an extremely terrifying killing intent within the dark space. This killing intent actually gave him a very familiar feeling. Is there a small world behind this arched stone door? Zhuowen looked at Ho Tiangang beside him and asked. Yes, this small world was left behind by the founder of our Chasing Sun Temple. There are many resources left by the founder for the sect. All these years, the Chasing Sun Temple has been able to stand tall, all because of the resources in this small world. Moreover, the green sun red pill also exists in this small world. It's just that no one can enter our sun-chasing temple now. Speaking of this, Ho Tiangang's mouth was full of a bitter smile and some regret. Zhuowen glanced at Ho Tiangang. The moment he saw Ho Tiangang in the hall, he found that this person had quite a serious internal injury. It seemed that Ho Tiangang's internal injury should be related to the changes in this small world. In this small world, there are countless resources and it is very safe. However, there is an exception. That place is a forbidden area that the founder warned. No one of the younger generation can touch it. That forbidden area imprisons a golden crow that was once defeated by the founder. The golden crow was severely injured and sealed in the forbidden area. The golden crow was sealed by a crimson divine arrow. At that time, I thought that the severely injured golden crow was not enough. In addition, the crimson divine arrow was extraordinary, so I pulled out the crimson divine arrow and the trapped golden crow broke free. Chapter 30-93. The golden crowin Ho Tiangang mentioned that the golden crow had been sealed by a blood-colored divine arrow. Ho Tiangang knew that it was Ho Yi's divine arrow. In the legends, the great shaman Ho Yi had forged 9 divine arrows that had killed 9 golden crows and saved countless lives. The divine arrow on Zhuowen's body was stained with fresh blood, the blood of the golden crow. It was a terrifying divine weapon that had once torn apart the golden crow's body. Now, he was lucky enough to find another Ho Yi's divine arrow. That golden crow was too strong. Although it was injured, it still had the strength of a half-step Empyrean Lord. I was caught off guard and was attacked by that beast. I was heavily injured. Ho Tiangang was somewhat ashamed as he muttered in a low voice. Zhuowen nodded. Ho Tiangang's cultivation base was slightly lower than Senki Yin's. He hadn't reached the early Empyrean Lord level, only a half-step Empyrean Lord. Among the 5 Dao palaces of the host domain, the sect masters of the Scarlet Mountain Villa and the 10 Absolutes Incorp sect were both early Empyrean Lords. The other 3 were weaker overall. Zhuowen wasn't surprised that Ho Tiangang had been injured by the Golden Crow. Sect Master Ho, you should be able to open the entrance to this lesser dimension, right? Zhuowen asked in a low voice. Of course, but the Golden Crow is wreaking havoc in the lesser dimension. If we go in, we'll be attacked immediately. When I tried to enter the lesser dimension for the second time, I found that it had already become a world of flames. The golden crow's strength is also constantly recovering. It's even stronger than the first time. Isn't it a little inappropriate for us to go in now? Ho Tiangong's eyes still held some fear, his voice trembling. Sect Master Ho, you just need to give me the exact location of the pill Dawn Azure Sun Red in the lesser dimension, and let me in alone, Zhuowen said calmly. Alliance Master Zhua, you can't be serious, right? That golden crow is even stronger than a half-step Empyrean Lord. You, Ho Tiangang, had long seen that Zhuowen was merely an eternal overlord. Although Zhuowen's other identity was Long One, he had once displayed great might in the Star Wars. However, that was only possible with the help of the Starry Sky Pagoda's foundation and not with one's own strength. Therefore, Ho Tiangang doubted whether Zhuowen could come out alive after entering the outside world. You don't have to worry about that. After entering the small world, I will deal with it myself, Zhuowen said somewhat helplessly. He knew that Ho Tiangang and the others were worried that his cultivation was not enough. If they knew how powerful Zhuowen's Panga's sacred body was, perhaps they would not think so. Of course, the Panga's sacred body was Zhuowen's biggest secret. He would not tell anyone about it easily. Ho Tiangang and Zhou Guan looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. Ho Tiangang sighed and said, Alliance Master Zhua, wait for me here. I'll call some people to go in with you. It's too dangerous for you to go in alone. After Ho Tiangang finished speaking, he hurriedly left. Zhuowen could not stop him even if he wanted to. After a while, Ho Tiangang came back with 4 people. Zhuowen had seen these 4 people in the hall before. They were all experts at the late-stage creation realm and above. One of them was an old man whose cultivation had reached the peak of the creation realm. This old man was the first old man sitting on the left side of the hall. Zhuowen remembered that this old man's name was Gu Fa. He was the only Grand Elder of the Sun-Chasing Temple. His status was only below Zhou Guan and Ho Tiangang. Alliance Master Zhua, we will go in with you. As long as we pick the Red Sun pill, we will immediately withdraw. Ho Tiangang said cautiously. Zhuowen looked deeply at Ho Tiangang. Ho Tiangang was very cautious in dealing with people, but he treated people quite sincerely. At least, this made Zhuowen feel very comfortable. Thank you for your kind intentions, Sect Master Ho. If we can successfully obtain the Red Sun pill, the Sun-Chasing Temple will become the most important ally of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Zhuowen promised. Ho Tiangang was overjoyed. He had helped Zhuowen to repay Zhuowen's kindness in repelling the foreign tribes. More importantly, he wanted to build a good relationship with Zhuowen. The young man in front of him was the Alliance Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He had also saved so many people in the Star Wars battlefield. His reputation was too high, and his future was limitless. If he did not befriend such a young talent, he would be a retard. Then let's go in now. Zhuowen nodded. Ho Tiangong's gaze was grave. He took out a jade pendant and opened the restrictions on the arched stone door. Instantly, a wave of heat swept over. It was as if Ho Tiangang had not opened the door, but the vent of a furnace. Quickly go in. Alchemist Zhou, wait outside. If there are any accidents, I will inform you in advance. After Ho Tiangang instructed Zhou Guan, he led everyone in without turning his head back. Zhuowen surveyed the surroundings of the small dimension. His gaze became extremely grave. There were no living creatures in this small dimension. Everywhere he looked, there were raging flames burning fiercely. In the sky and on the ground, everywhere he looked was filled with flames. In the distant horizon, Zhuowen saw that in the center of the small dimension, the raging flames had formed a terrifying firestorm. In the firestorm, a 3-legged golden crow was faintly discernible. It was constantly flying around in the firestorm. Every time it flew around, the firestorms might become even more terrifying and turbulent. What's wrong with this golden crow? Zhuowen pointed at the golden crow in the firestorm. The golden crow is destroying the blood-colored divine arrow. According to the records left behind by the ancestral master, this golden crow was injured by the blood-colored divine arrow. That's why it was forcefully suppressed by the ancestral master. Therefore, the moment this golden crow broke out of the seal, it immediately attacked the blood-colored divine arrow, wanting to completely destroy it. Ho Tiangong's eyes were filled with fear as he explained to Zhuowen. Right now, the golden crow hasn't discovered that we've entered. Let's hurry to the red sun pill and pick it. Then, we'll quickly leave this small dimension. Gu Fa said. Yes, this is an opportunity. Let's go. After Ho Tiangang finished speaking, he led the way in front and rushed into the depths of the small dimension. Zhuowen followed behind unhurriedly. Speaking of which, he needed the red sun pill, and he didn't want to let go of the blood-colored divine arrow. At that time, he would probably have to face the golden crow directly. However, Zhuowen wasn't afraid. The golden crow was already severely injured and was very afraid of the Ho-E godly arrow. Not only did he have the Ho-E godly arrow, but he also had the Ho-E godly bow. This thing was very effective against the golden crow. Soon, the group entered the depths of the small dimension. There was a small mountain there. However, this small mountain was covered in flames and became a mountain of flames. At the top of the mountain of flames, a flower burning with blood-colored flames was blooming brightly. The blood-red color in the mountain of flames was so enchanting. Red Sun Pill. Chapter 3094. Ho Tiangang, Sect Leader Ho, didn't you say that the green sun red had withered? Why do I feel that the green sun red is full of vitality? Zhuowen's eyes were filled with confusion as he looked at the bewitching flower at the top of the mountain of flames. Ho Tiangong's eyes were also filled with doubt as he said, "The last time I came here, the green sun red was indeed on the verge of withering. The red sun pill is born in a high-temperature environment. I'm afraid that the golden crow's fire has become the nourishment of the red sun pill. It gave the withered green sun, red, a new lease of life." Gu Fa suddenly opened his mouth and gave a reasonable explanation. Zhuowen nodded. Gu Fa's explanation was correct. The green sun red was naturally suited to high-temperature environments, and the golden crow's fire energy was even more unusual. Therefore, the green sun red was naturally rejuvenated after absorbing the golden crow's fire, and it was even growing stronger and stronger. Alliance Leader Zhuo, I'll go get the green sun red for you. Gu Fa spoke once again. With a stomp of his right foot, he shot forward and charged towards the flame mountain. The moment Gu Fa rushed out, the other three deliberately blocked in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen looked at this scene, then turned to Ho Tiangang in front of him and said indifferently, "Sect Leader Ho, what is the meaning of this?" Ho Tiangong's eyes flickered as he laughed dryly. "Alliance Chief Zhuo, we are also protecting you. Once Elder Gu Fa takes back the green sun red pill, we will immediately retreat. At that time, we will naturally hand the green sun red pill to you." Zhuowen fell silent. He could already guess what Ho Tiangang and the others were thinking. At first, Ho Tiangang had readily agreed to hand over the green sun red because it was about to wither, so he didn't care. But now, the green sun red was rejuvenated under the effects of the golden crow's fire. Ho Tiangang and the others began to think. This was a genuine divine medicine of the heavens. A withered divine medicine was naturally worthless, but one in perfect condition was priceless. Other Dao Palace factions might not even be able to come up with a single divine medicine of the heavens. Sect Leader Ho, I hope you can abide by your words. Zhuowen looked deeply at Ho Tiangang, but he didn't say anything and just stood there silently. If it wasn't for Jiang Qixing, Zhuowen might have attacked him just now. Now, he didn't want to wait and see how Ho Tiangang would deal with this Sunday. If the results didn't satisfy him, Zhuowen wouldn't. Ho Tiangang smiled. Ho Tiangang. Ho Tiangong's words. Zhuowen's Hua was success. Even though Zhuo was the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's alliance head recommended by many pill refiners and Array Dao masters, the people from the Pill Array Dao Domain's assessment had yet to come out, so he wasn't the official alliance head. Moreover, even if he really was the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's alliance head, compared to the priceless heaven-piercing divine herb, the latter was naturally more important. Studio Gu Fa's Lu was. Gu Fa's strength wasn't bad. He released his peak creation master's power and formed a strong shield around him as he rushed to the top of the mountain. The moment Gu Fa charged into the mountain of flames, the golden crow that was destroying the blood-colored divine arrows in the center of the firestorm in the sky sensed something. His eyes, which were emitting golden light, were filled with terrifying anger. It did not expect that someone would dare to secretly covet the Danxia Qingyang red that it had set its eyes on while it was busy preparing the god of destruction arrow. This stalk of red sun pill was indeed about to wither, but the golden crow had taken a fancy to this stalk of divine herb, so it used its own blood essence and golden crow flames to continuously nurture the red sun pill. In the end, the green sun red pill was revived. But now, someone dared to touch what it wanted. They didn't know how to spell the word death. A piercing cry resounded through the clouds. Immediately, a three-legged golden crow rushed out from the firestorm in the middle of the sky and rushed towards the flame mountain on this side. Ho Tiangang and the others were shocked. Ho Tiangang hurriedly transmitted his voice to Gu Fa, telling him to move faster. Gu Fa naturally did not dare to be negligent. He practically risked his old life and desperately rushed towards the top of the mountain. Unfortunately, when Gu Fa reached the top of the mountain and his right hand was about to touch the red sun pill, he suddenly stopped. The golden crow's gigantic body had already landed on the top of the flame mountain. It opened its mouth and golden flames scattered into sparks as it swept towards Gu Fa. Just a little more. Gu Fa's eyes revealed a ruthless look. He recklessly grabbed the red pill Azure Sun and planned to leave. Unfortunately, the moment he stretched out his hand, the fire stars condensed into a flaming saber and cut off Gu Fa's right arm. Furthermore, that golden flame was extremely terrifying. The instant it came into contact with the ancient technique, it was as if someone had poured oil on it, and it instantly started burning. Gu Fa's right shoulder was burned into nothingness. No! Gu Fa let out a blood-curdling scream and made a prompt decision. He directly dislocated his right shoulder, and the red pill Azure Sun naturally fell back onto the top of the mountain. The instant he removed his right shoulder, Gu Fa began to flee. The golden crow was too terrifying. It almost killed him in one blow. If he was hit again, he would definitely die. The golden crow ignored the red pill Azure Sun and chased after Gu Fa with its fiery eyes. Not good. The golden crow found us. Let's run. Ho Tiangong's expression changed drastically. Looking at the golden crow that was chasing after Gu Fa, he immediately used his movement technique and rushed towards the exit of the pocket dimension. Ho Tiangang and the other three were in a hurry to escape. Therefore, when they were escaping, they did not notice that Zhuowen, who was standing behind them, had disappeared. Secmaster, save me. Suddenly, Gu Fa's blood-curdling scream came from behind. Gu Fa was enveloped by the golden crow's flames. His entire body was engulfed in golden flames, and he turned into a golden, flaming man. He continuously cried out for help toward Ho Tiangang and the others. Ho Tiangong's scalp went numb. He did not even look back as he increased his movement technique speed. He only wanted to get rid of the golden crow behind him as soon as possible. Gu Fa was in despair. He knelt on the ground as his body gradually turned into nothingness under the burning of the golden flames. However, Gu Fa's consciousness was very clear, especially when it came to pain. This made Gu Fa die in agony. The golden crow was extremely fast. It quickly caught up with Ho Tiangang and the others. It suddenly spat out a mouthful of golden flames. The cultivator running at the back was immediately set ablaze. He let out a blood-curdling scream and fell to the ground, motionless. Then, the remaining two cultivators met with the same fate. Ho Tiangong's heart sank to the bottom. When he saw the golden crow behind him looking at him with murderous eyes, his eyelids twitched. Boom! Golden flames gushed forth as Ho Tiangang took out a golden halberd. This sky piercer was golden, and there were patterns of the sun at the top. Chapter 3095. The sorrowful cry of the golden crow in the center of the sky. A terrifying firestorm spanned between heaven and earth, like a bridge connecting heaven and earth. However, this bridge was a bridge of destruction. Any living creature that wanted to enter would be torn into countless pieces by the terrifying, tearing force of the firestorm. Zhuowen stood at the bottom of the firestorm. The fierce wind brought with it a scorching heat, blowing Zhuowen's shoulder-length hair into a messy mess. The moment the golden crow let out a cry, Zhuowen had already left quietly. Since there was another Ho-E arrow in the firestorm, Zhuowen naturally did not intend to let it go. While the golden crow was attracted by the ancient method, Zhuowen came here. Zhuowen raised his head and looked at the top of the firestorm. He vaguely saw a blood-colored arrow in the roaring flames. Zhuowen did not hesitate. His body burst out with sparkling light. He directly punched at the bottom of the firestorm. The terrifying fist strength tore a gap as tall as a person at the bottom of the firestorm, and he entered the gap. After entering the center of the firestorm, Zhuowen kicked his feet and flew straight up. He knew that the other Ho-E arrow was at the top of the firestorm. However, the tearing force in the center of the firestorm was more terrifying than the outside. Even Zhuowen's Panga's sacred body could not withstand it. After flying for a while, his body was torn into many wounds. There were even some large chunks of flesh on his body that had been torn apart and sent flying. Fortunately, Zhuowen's recovery ability was very strong. While his flesh was being torn apart, his physical injuries were also being healed. After an hour, Zhuowen finally arrived at the mouth of the firestorm with difficulty. At the mouth of the firestorm, a blood-colored arrow was trapped by a ball of golden flames. Inside the ball, the golden flames were constantly jumping and bursting with a fierce corrosive force, constantly eroding the blood-colored arrow. Zhuowen could feel that the temperature inside the sphere was terrifyingly high. Even he was wary of it. However, the blood-red arrow was still intact. Other than the blood stains on the surface of the arrow being burned by the golden flames, revealing the greenish-yellow color of the arrow, there was basically no damage. However, Zhuowen's eyes were very sharp. He could see that there was a small amount of greenish-yellow liquid on the surface of the blood-red god arrow. This should be a sign that the blood-red god arrow was melted by the high temperature. There is no doubt that if this blood-colored divine arrow was exposed to such golden flames for a long time, it would eventually melt into a greenish-yellow liquid. Zhuowen's fist slammed into the sphere, instantly triggering a terrifying backlash of golden flames. Zhuowen's right fist was immediately burned into nothingness. Zhuowen kept retreating, but the golden flame was relentless. It chased after Zhuowen like a bloody maw, wanting to swallow Zhuowen whole. Zhuowen's eyes were calm. He took out a jade bottle and opened the cork. The backlash of the golden flame actually stopped its forward momentum and began to retreat. Unfortunately, an even more blazing golden flame suddenly surged out of the jade bottle and swallowed the golden flame that was devoured by the backlash. After a while, the entire sphere of golden flames was absorbed by the jade bottle. Zhuowen put the cork back on the bottle and put the blood-colored arrow into the great world. Inside the jade bottle was the bloodline of the 99 phoenix body that Zhuowen had extracted from the phoenix people Saintus. This bloodline was a powerful bloodline born from fire, and it was extremely effective against fire. The golden crow's flames were indeed extraordinary, but in front of the 99 phoenix body, they were just a drizzle. They were completely restrained. Zhuowen rushed out of the firestorm and immediately rushed towards the mountain of flames where the green sun red was growing. It was a pleasant surprise that he was able to obtain the second Ho-E divine arrow, but this time his main goal was the green sun red. When the sphere of flames in the firestorm was destroyed by Zhuowen, the golden crow that was chasing after Ho Tiangang burst out with a furious cry. Immediately, it gave up on Ho Tiangang and rushed towards the depths of the small world like a falling star. Ho Tiangang stopped and spat out a mouthful of blood. His clothes were ragged as he knelt on one knee on the ground, gasping for breath. He was really chased by the golden crow to the point where there was nowhere to go. He almost died in the golden crow's hands. If the golden crow had continued to chase him, he was afraid that he wouldn't have been able to reach the exit. The people I brought in have all died. What's going on with the golden crow? It seems like it was enraged by someone. Ho Tiangang looked at the departing figure of the golden crow with a puzzled expression. But soon, he thought of Zhuowen. When they were escaping, they didn't see Zhuowen. It seems that Zhuowen secretly went to seize the green sun red alone. Ho Tiangong's eyes flickered. He was a little hesitant about whether he should go over and take a look. After all, the green sun red was a divine medicine of the heaven-reaching divine level. Moreover, it was saved by the golden crow. This thing was too precious, comparable to all the treasures of the sun-chasing temple. Such a precious thing was a big temptation for Ho Tiangang. Who would give up so easily? I still have 2 billion-mile escape talismans. If I really feel that something is wrong, I will immediately use the billion-mile escape talismans to leave this place. Ho Tiangang was tempted. After comforting himself, he followed the golden crow from afar. After a while, Ho Tiangang came to the mountain of flames where the green sun red was planted. He saw a figure pick up the green sun red that fell on the top of the mountain of flames and put away the divine medicine without any hesitation. At this moment, the golden crow had already arrived at the top of the mountain of flames. Seeing this person put away the green sun red, it was so angry that it kept shouting and swooping down. This Zhuowen is so bold. Why didn't he run away? Ho Tiangang originally thought that Zhuowen would turn around and run away the instant he put away the pill, glow azure sun red pill. However, he didn't expect that guy to stand where he was without moving at all. Moreover, he even raised his head and used a scrutinizing posture to size up the golden crow. This guy thought that he was admiring an exquisite sculpture. This was a terrifying exotic beast that could destroy everything. This guy must be crazy. Ho Tiangang began to retreat. He felt that Zhuowen was doomed. However, Zhuowen's death did him no good. The green sun red would definitely be taken away by the golden crow. He was no match for the golden crow, so he had no chance to get the green sun red. Bang! Suddenly, Ho Tiangang was stunned. He found at the moment the golden crow swooped into the mountain of flames. A bloody light with soaring killing intent whistled into the sky. It drilled into the golden crow's chest and passed through the middle of its wings. That terrifying force sent the golden crow flying backward. The golden crow let out a sorrowful cry that it had never let out since ancient times. That sorrowful cry was filled with endless fear and panic. What's going on? Ho Tiangang looked at Zhuowen in a daze. Only then did he see that Zhuowen was standing on the top of the mountain of flames, holding a bloody bow in his left hand and maintaining the posture of shooting a divine arrow with his right hand. Chapter 3096. Tails obliterate golden blood rained down from the sky, as if an enormous mountain of gold had melted in the sky. This was the blood of the golden crow. When the blood landed on the ground, it sizzled as if something was being burned. Thick white smoke rose from the area where the golden rain fell, and the flat ground became full of potholes and was full of devastation. The sorrowful cries of the golden crow resounded in the sky. It flapped its wings violently, forcibly stopping the arrow from moving backwards. The instant it stopped moving backwards, the golden crow still had the blood-red arrow in its chest. It stared at the distant Zhuowen in fear, withstanding the terrifying killing intent of the blood-red arrow as it retreated continuously. This Ho Yi's divine arrow really is the bane of the golden crow. Zhuowen looked at the golden crow, whose body was pierced by the Ho Yi's divine arrow and could not even fly. His gaze was calm as he took out the other Ho Yi's divine arrow he had just obtained. The bloodstains on the surface of this Ho Yi's divine arrow had already been burned away by the golden crow's flames. At this moment, the arrow was greenish-yellow in color, and it had a hint of sharpness to it. When Zhuan knocked this Ho Yi's divine arrow onto the bowstring of the Ho Yi divine bow, he felt an unprecedented throbbing in his heart. This is the true form of the Ho Yi's divine arrow. Zhuan glanced at the greenish-yellow arrow in his hand that had been pulled into a full moon shape. Logically speaking, the Ho Yi's divine arrow was powerful enough to shoot down a golden crow, but Zhuan's arrow just now had only seriously injured the golden crow. Zhuan began to suspect that the Ho Yi's divine arrow he had obtained was somewhat different. Now he finally understood why the power was different. The main reason was probably that the golden crow's blood on the surface of the arrow had weakened the power of the arrow. The first Ho Yi's divine arrow he had obtained was almost completely covered in blood. He knew that it was the golden crow's blood, so the power of the Ho Yi's divine arrow could not be maximized. The second Ho Yi's divine arrow in his hand had already been burned away by the golden crow's flames. This was the true Ho Yi's divine arrow. Bang! Zhuan loosened his right hand, and the second arrow shot out. On the surface of the arrow, there was an earth-shattering golden light, and the killing intent contained within it far surpassed that of the first arrow. It was a biting cold and murderous aura. This arrow was too fast and too fierce. However, the moment the arrow entered the golden crow's body, golden blood mist burst out from the golden crow's body. In the end, the golden crow abruptly exploded into a cloud of bloody mist. Not even its bones remained. Zhuan put away the two Ho Yi divine arrows, jumped down from the mountain of flames, and walked to the front of Ho Tiangang, who was already in a daze. Sect leader Ho, the matter here has been settled. We should go out now. Zhuan reminded him faintly. Ho Tiangang's entire body trembled. He lowered his head, not daring to look at Zhuan. He could only respond and silently lead the way in front. At this moment, Ho Tiangang was very regretful. If he had known that Zhuan's strength was so terrifying, he wouldn't have dared to provoke him. Now that Zhuan asked him to lead the way, he didn't dare to resist. After all, after seeing Dan Xiaqing Yanghong being saved by the golden crow, he did have some evil thoughts. If Zhuan was in a bad mood, it would be easy to kill him. Alliance leader Zhua, I was wrong just now. You, walking to the exit. Ho Tiangang turned around and bowed to Zhuan. His tone was sincere and even had a hint of flattery. Zhuan glanced at Ho Tiangang indifferently and said, Sect leader Ho, I hate people who go back on their word the most. In the past, many people went back on their word during the process of cooperating with me, and without exception, they didn't have a good ending. And this time, you played the same trick. Ho Tiangang's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He hurriedly knelt on the ground to express his apology. Ho Tiangang knew that he had underestimated Zhuan. This person was able to amaze everyone in the Star Wars battlefield and was even elected as the alliance leader of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. He was definitely not a simple person. Moreover, he had seen with his own eyes that this person cleanly got rid of the Golden Crow. This made Ho Tiangang subconsciously think that Zhuan was much stronger than him. If he fought against him, he would definitely die. Of course, Zhuan could easily kill the Golden Crow because Ho Yi's divine arrow restrained the Golden Crow. If Zhuan were to fight the Golden Crow, he might be suppressed. However, Ho Tiangang naturally didn't know about this. He imagined Zhuan to be a super expert. Don't worry, Sect Leader Ho. I won't do anything to you. I just want to remind you that Jiang Qixing is my good friend. I hope Sect Leader Ho can treat Brother Jiang well in the future. Zhuan looked deeply at Ho Tiangang and continued, Now, open the exit. Ho Tiangang did as he was told, and the two of them left the small world. At the exit, Zhou Guan saw that Ho Tiangang and Zhuan had both come out. However, his expression immediately became unsightly. Apart from Ho Tiangang and Zhuan, no one else had come out. Zhou Guan went up to receive him and asked in confusion, Sect Leader, where are Elder Gu Fa and the others? They unfortunately died in the small world. Ho Tiangang said sadly. What? That Golden Crow did it? Zhou Guan's expression changed greatly, and his voice was slightly angry. Yes. However, that Golden Crow was also killed by Alliance leader Zhua, Ho Tiangang said. Zhou Guan opened his mouth in shock. He looked at Zhuowen and asked, Sect leader, that Golden Crow was killed by you and Alliance leader Zhua. Ho Tiangang shook his head and said, It was Alliance leader Zhua who killed the Golden Crow alone. I'm far inferior to him. What? Alliance leader? Zhou Guan was really shocked. He looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. It was just luck. Zhuowen shook his head, then looked at Ho Tiangang and said, Sect leader Ho, Brother Jiang is my friend. I hope you can nurture him well. Ho Tiangang bowed respectfully and hurriedly agreed. He had the attitude of a subordinate, and Zhou Guan was dumbfounded. After all, Ho Tiangang was the sect leader of the sun-chasing temple. Now, he was actually bowing to Zhuowen. This was really too crazy. That's right, Alliance leader. The people from the Alchemy Array Dao domain are already sending people over. I just received a notice that they will arrive at the Alchemy Array Immortal Alliance in about half a month, Zhou Guan said to Zhuowen. Yes, I've already settled the matters at the Sun-Chasing Temple. Since the people from the Alchemy Array Dao domain are about to arrive, let's return to the Alchemy Array Immortal Alliance first. Zhuowen nodded and left the Sun-Chasing Temple with Zhou Guan. Originally, he wanted to stay in the Sun-Chasing Temple for a few more days. However, Ho Tiangong's actions in the small world had disappointed him. He could not stay here any longer. However, before leaving, he sent a farewell message to Jiang Qixing. This time, he planned to directly head to the Primitive Heaven domain after settling the matters at the Alchemy Array Immortal Alliance. Chapter 3097. Alchemy Array, Immortal Lord in the Void. At the border of the host region, a stream of light flashed past and stopped on a huge meteorite floating in the starry sky. It was an extremely large spaceship that resembled a shell. Two figures stood on the deck of the spaceship, one old and one young. Both of them wore long robes. Their robes were similar to those worn by the alchemists and formation masters of the host region. However, the patterns on their robes were different from those of the alchemists and formation masters of the host region. In the host region, the pattern on the alchemy master's robes was a pill furnace, while the pattern on the formation Dao master's robes was the outline of a great array. The pattern on the chest of these two people's robes was more like the combination of a pill furnace and a large formation. It looked like both a pill furnace and a large formation. It was a strange pattern. The young man looked to be in his 20s. He had long reddish-brown hair, a fair face, and a sharp nose. He was even more beautiful than a woman. The old man, standing beside the young man, looked to be in his 70s. However, his gaze was extremely sharp, like an eagle hunting its prey, ready to attack at any time. The young man stood behind the old man with a respectful gaze. The old man in front of him had an extremely high status in the Alchemy Array Dao domain. He was a powerful existence that stood at the peak of the Alchemy Array Dao domain. It was said that the old man's Alchemy Dao and Formation Dao had reached the peak of the creation grade and was not far from the heaven grade. It was a great honor for the young man to be brought to the host region by the old man. Wenlin, do you know why I was sent to the host region to assess the new alliance leader and why I brought you along? The old man suddenly spoke with his hands behind his back. He turned around and looked at the young man named Wenlin. Wenlin was at a loss and shook his head. I plan to let you take over the position of alliance leader of the Alchemy Array Immortal Alliance in the host region, the old man said slowly. The young man looked surprised and puzzled. To be honest, the young man was not very interested in the Alchemy Array Immortal Alliance in the other four Dao domains. This was because the Alchemy Array Immortal Alliance in the other four Dao domains added together was far inferior to the Alchemy Array Dao domain. In the Pill Array Dao domain, the standard of the Pill Dao and Array Dao had already reached a very high level. The Pill Array Immortal Alliance of the other four Dao domains had been left far behind. The young man was very ambitious. He did not want to just be the leader of another precept domain and not be able to explore a higher realm for the rest of his life. His goal was the alchemy array Dao domain. Only in the alchemy array Dao domain would his alchemy Dao and array Dao be able to break through to the heaven ascension level. It was simply impossible in other places. I know you're confused. Now, I'll tell you why I did it. The old man turned around and looked at the young man seriously before continuing. The Eastern Immortal Alliance is the Pill Array Immortal Alliance of the host region. The first leader of the Eastern Immortal Alliance, Xiang Yangdong, was the eldest disciple of the Pill Array Immortal Monarch. The eldest disciple of the Alchemy Array Dao Domain's founder, the Alchemy Array Immortal Monarch. The youth revealed a look of shock. The Alchemy Array Immortal Lord was too famous in the Alchemy Array Dao Domain. A long time ago, the Xianmi Heavenly Domain only had the North, South, East, and West Dao domains, and the Dao of Alchemy and the Dao of Formations were still at the stage of being a blind man trying to figure out the elephant. However, in that era, an earth-shattering figure had appeared. This person was known as the Alchemy Array Immortal Lord in later generations. The Alchemy Array Immortal Lord had an especially strong comprehension of the Alchemy Dao and Array Dao. He created many pill recipes and array formations, and wrote them into records that were passed down. The later Alchemy Array Immortal Lord made a shocking move. This move was to expand an additional domain within the Xianmi Heavenly Domain. This domain was called the Alchemy Array Dao Domain by him. Originally, the appearance of a Dao domain in the Xianmi Heavenly Domain for no reason would easily cause the dissatisfaction of the other 4 Dao domains, which would then lead to a terrifying war. However, ever since the Alchemy Array Dao domain was established, there had never been a war. The main reason was that when the Alchemy Array Immortal Lord established the Dao domain, he announced to the outside world that the Alchemy Array Dao domain welcomed all cultivators who were interested in the Alchemy Dao and Array Dao to cultivate in the Alchemy Array Dao domain. All the forces of the 4 Dao domains realized that the establishment of the Alchemy Array Dao domain was an opportunity for them. They all sent their alchemy masters and Array Dao masters to the Alchemy Array Dao domain to cultivate. The Alchemy Array Dao domain kept its promise and did its best to nurture the Earth Alchemy masters and Array Dao masters sent by the 4 Dao domains. After completing their studies, the Alchemy masters and Array Dao masters returned to their forces with feelings of gratitude towards the Alchemy Array Dao domain. They also praised the Alchemy Array Dao domain greatly. As the Alchemy Array Dao domain's reputation grew, more and more forces followed suit. The Alchemy Array Dao domain's reputation also rose during this period. As a result, not only was the newly established Alchemy Array Dao domain not rejected, it became more and more popular. In the end, it developed into a powerful and unique Dao domain that surpassed the 4 Dao domains. When the Alchemy Array Dao domain developed to its peak, there was no news of the Alchemy Array Immortal Lord. Before the Alchemy Array Immortal Lord completely disappeared, his last decision was to establish the Alchemy Array Immortal Alliance in the other 4 Dao domains. They were called the East, South, West, and North Immortal Alliances. Xiang Yangding was the eldest disciple of the Alchemy Array Immortal Alliance. After the Alchemy Array Immortal Lord mysteriously disappeared, Xiang Yangding went to the Eastern Immortal Alliance and became the first Alliance Master of the Eastern Immortal Alliance. Before Xiang Yangding went to the Eastern Immortal Alliance, he took away a very important item. This item was the Alchemy Array Immortal Lord's life's work, the True Alchemy Array Record. It is said that the True Alchemy Array Record contains the secret of transcendence. This item is a treasure that no alchemist or divine array master can refuse, the old man said calmly. The young man understood what the old man meant. The old man wanted him to become the new Alliance Master of the Eastern Immortal Alliance, and then go to the Eastern Immortal Alliance to find the True Alchemy Array Record. Master, I will definitely do this well. I will not disappoint you. The young man was full of fighting spirit and pride. When he was in the Alchemy Array Dao domain, he was already a very famous genius. He cultivated both alchemy and array Dao and had reached the Genesis level. In the alchemy array Dao domain, there were no more than a handful of people who could surpass him, let alone the Eastern Immortal Alliance. You still have to be careful. The new Alliance Master that the Eastern Immortal Alliance reported this time is not a simple person. It is said that this guy called Zhuowen personally killed the previous Alliance Master, Ji Wuming, and also killed 4 Great Immortal Masters. His courage is not ordinary. The old man's voice was very low. The young man's eyes suddenly became serious. He snorted coldly and said, "It seems that he is a scum. He actually killed his own superior. His heart is really black. I will not lose to this kind of scum." The young man was very confident, but the old man secretly shook his head. He continued to scold. "You don't understand at all. The information that came from above said that Zhuowen is a creation-level divine array master. Otherwise, the alchemists and divine array masters in the Eastern Immortal Alliance would not have elected him as the new Alliance Master." The young man frowned slightly and asked, "Master, how is this person's alchemy skills?" The information did not say that. Maybe his alchemy skills are not high. After all, the information mentioned that this Zhuowen is not very old. He might be even younger than you. But don't worry. With me around, the position of Eastern Immortal Alliance Master will definitely be yours. Chapter 3098. Moon-chasing meteor array. The young man frowned slightly, and his eyes revealed a trace of dissatisfaction. Younger than me? Is there a problem with the information sent by the Eastern Immortal Alliance? The young man was one of the best among the younger generation in the alchemy array Dao domain. His talent was already strong enough, but his array Dao had only reached the Genesis realm. However, this guy called Zhuowen was from the host region, a Dao domain with low alchemy array standards, yet his array Dao level was above his. The young man did not believe it. The authenticity of the information is still up for debate. When we go to the Eastern Immortal Alliance, we will naturally be able to see Zhuowen. I also want to see what kind of ability this fellow, who has been elected, has. The old man's mouth revealed a trace of coldness as he spoke indifferently. At this moment, in the Alchemy Array Immortal Alliance, Zhou Guan and Feng Yuan were standing in the hall, looking respectfully at the young man sitting in front of the table and carefully reading the Jade Scroll. Zhuowen put away the Jade Scroll and frowned. He said doubtfully, "I heard that in the past the Alchemy Array Dao domain basically sent one person for the assessment. This time, they actually sent 2 people. According to the past pattern, that is indeed the case. But this time, they sent 2 people. I have heard of both of them. One of them is called Buyangrong, and he is a respected elder in the Alchemy Array Dao domain. His Array Dao and Alchemy Dao have both reached the peak of the creation realm. It is said that he has already touched the traces of the Heaven Ascension realm." Zhou Guan glanced at the Jade Scroll in Zhuowen's hand and continued. "The other person is called Zhu Wenlin, and he's a genius of the younger generation in the Alchemy Array Dao domain. He is also Buyangrong's favorite disciple. Zhu Wenlin's talent is very terrifying. He has studied the Alchemy Array Dao for less than 10,000 years, and his level has both reached the Genesis realm. Compared to Buyangrong, he has surpassed him. In the future, his Alchemy Array level is very likely to reach the Heaven Ascension realm." Feng Yuan also frowned slightly and said strangely, "Whether it is Buyangrong or Zhu Wenlin, they are both people with high status in the Alchemy Array Dao domain. They actually requested to come to the Eastern Immortal Alliance as an assessor." Zhou Guan also shook his head in confusion. According to the news they sent, they should be arriving at the Pill Array Immortal Alliance today. Just as Zhuowen spoke, someone came to report that a flying ship had arrived in the outer space of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. "Looks like they've arrived. Let's go and welcome them." Zhuowen stood up and brought Zhou Guan and Feng Yuan out of the hall. They headed straight for the plaza outside the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Outside the plaza of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, a flying ship landed in the center of the plaza. Two figures walked down from the flying ship. When Zhuan arrived at the square, the old man had just put away the spaceship. He put his hands behind his back and said, "Which one of you is Zhuan?" "This old man is the Alchemy Array Dao Region's Buyangrong. Why aren't you coming to see me?" Zhuan looked at Buyangrong coldly, then stepped forward and cupped his hands towards Buyangrong and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "I am Zhuan. It is our great honor that Senior Bu has come to the Eastern Immortal Alliance this time." "So that's Zhuan? I've seen the information from the Eastern Immortal Alliance. I heard that your array Dao has reached the creation grade." Buyangrong looked down at Zhuan from above. Zhu Wenlin, who was beside Buyangrong, looked on coldly. When he saw that Zhuan's cultivation was only at the Eternal Overlord realm, he couldn't help but sneer. The requirements for the Alliance Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance weren't particularly high. As long as one's alchemy skills met the requirements, it was enough. However, as the Alliance Master, one's cultivation had to be at least at the third step of the Dao Validation realm. The cultivation of this young man in front of him was too low. Zhu Wenlin shook his head inwardly. He felt that this Zhuan was completely unworthy of being his opponent. Moreover, he also suspected that this kid's array Dao skills couldn't possibly be at the creation grade. It was just a fabrication by the people of the Eastern Immortal Alliance. "I'm not talented. This Zhua's array Dao standard has indeed reached the creation level by luck some time ago," Zhuan said indifferently. "If that's the case, then set up this array for me to see." Buyangrong waved his sleeve and tossed a jade strip to Zhuan as he casually said. Zhou, who was following behind Zhuan, couldn't help but say, "Senior Bu, you must be tired from traveling all the way from the Alchemy Array Dao Domain to the Eastern Immortal Alliance. Why don't you rest in the Eastern Immortal Alliance for a night? The assessment can be postponed to the next day." "Did I allow you to speak?" Buyangrong glanced coldly at Zhou, then immediately looked at Zhuan and said, "I'm an impatient person. The sooner the assessment, the better. There's no need to delay. I've read the information sent by the Eastern Immortal Alliance. Ji Wuming's actions were indeed inappropriate, but he didn't deserve to die. However, you killed Ji Wuming without permission. This is already a violation of the rules of the Alchemy Array Dao Domain. If your array Dao skills haven't reached the creation grade, then that's cheating. I'll take you back to the Alchemy Array Dao Domain and wait for your punishment." Buyangrong's voice was very clear in the square. The square was dead silent, and no one spoke. They all sensed that something was wrong. The examiner sent by the Alchemy Array Dao Domain was aggressive. He didn't come with good intentions. "Of course, if your array Dao skills have indeed reached the creation grade, I'll further assess you." Buyangrong's tone softened as he said this. After Zhuan took the jade slip, he ignored Buyangrong and began to check the contents of the array Dao in the jade slip. The jade slip recorded a type of formation called the moon-chasing meteor formation. This was a kind of creation grade grand array. Moreover, it was one of the more difficult ones to set up. "Okay, I'll set up this array now." Zhuan threw the jade slip back to Buyangrong and immediately took out the beast bone array disc. He formed a seal with both hands and began to set up the array. Buyangrong took the jade slip and looked at Zhuan's actions in surprise. The moon-chasing meteor array was one of the more powerful and rare creation grade arrays. It was also very difficult to set up. Even newly advanced creation grade array Dao Masters had a high failure rate. Zhuan had just advanced, but he was so confident that he could set up such an array in front of Buyangrong. Wasn't he being a little too confident? However, as Zhuan continued to form seals to set up the array, the outline of an array appeared in the square. Buyangrong's gaze turned serious. He realized that Zhuan's method of setting up the array was completely correct. It was even simpler and more perfect than the method recorded in the jade slip. This guy has set up the moon-chasing meteor array before. Buyangrong was puzzled, but he soon felt that it was impossible. This was because the method of setting up the array was too brilliant. It didn't seem like a guy who had just advanced to the creation grade array Dao Master, but more like a veteran. Zhuan's gaze was focused. The difficulty of setting up the moon-chasing meteor array was rather high, but Zhuan's array Dao was learned from the true alchemy array record. His method of setting up the array was extremely brilliant, surpassing most of the God Array Dao masters. The moon-chasing meteor array, which was difficult to set up, wasn't that difficult for him. 2 hours later, Zhuan stopped. In front of him, a large array was completely formed. Chapter 3099. Unqualified. When the moon-chasing meteor array was completely formed, the plaza was filled with cheers. The members of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance looked at Zhuan with even more fervent gazes. Now, no one doubted Zhuan's standard and strength. Furthermore, he was still so young. Under his leadership, the Eastern Immortal Alliance would definitely surpass the Pill Array Immortal Alliance of other Dao domains. Zhou Guan and Feng Yuan also smiled. They knew that after Zhuan successfully set up the moon-chasing meteor array, he would be recognized and become the true alliance master of the Eastern Immortal Alliance. Zhuan's gaze was calm as he looked at Bu Yangrong and said, "What does Senior Bu think of my moon-chasing meteor array?" Bu Yangrong nodded slightly and said indifferently, "Your array Dao standard has indeed reached the creation realm. There is no doubt about that. However, I would like to ask, who is your array Dao master? I don't think I've seen your array technique before." Zhuan looked deeply at Bu Yangrong and said, "My master is just a wild crane. He rarely moves around the outside world. Senior Bu, you definitely don't know him. Furthermore, my master warned me before that I must not mention his name when I venture out in the future. Your master seems to be an indifferent and ambitious person." But Yangrong nodded slightly and sighed before continuing, "Zhuan, you probably don't know the minimum requirement to become the Alliance Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. To become an Alliance Master, one's cultivation must be at least at the Genesis realm. The Alliance Master's Alchemy Dao and Array Dao must also be at least at the Genesis realm. Your Array Dao standard is very high, and I admire it. However, your cultivation is too low, and your Alchemy Dao standard is probably not high either. Therefore, you are not qualified to become the Alliance Master of the Eastern Immortal Alliance." When Bu Yangrong said this, the plaza was silent for a while before it burst into an uproar. No one expected that Zhua Wen's final test result would actually be a failure. Although Bu Yangrong's words made sense, there was no one more suitable and powerful than Zhuan in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Zhou Guan walked forward and bowed to Bu Yangrong. "Senior Bu, Alliance Master Zhua is the most suitable candidate. Other than him, no one else in the Eastern Immortal Alliance is qualified. Alliance Master Zhua is still young, and his potential is limitless. If he becomes the Eastern Immortal Alliance Master, our Eastern Immortal Alliance's future." Feng Yuan also walked out and stood side by side with Zhou Guan to plead with Bu Yangrong. Bu Yangrong's eyes were cold as he said faintly, "Don't worry, I have brought a better candidate." As he spoke, Bu Yangrong pointed at the youth beside him and continued, "He's my favorite disciple. His name is Zhu Wenlin, Eastern Alliance Master, and Array Dao Alchemy Array Alliance. He meets Eastern Alliance Alliance Master. Zhu Feng Array Immortals Alliance was Dao Immortal 1010. Immortal Alliance Immortal Alliance Zhu Wenlin did not even look at Zhuan. It was as if he had completely ignored Zhuan. Zhuan looked on coldly. He finally knew why Bu Yangrong had brought Zhu Wenlin here. It turned out that he wanted his disciple to become the Eastern Immortal Alliance's Alliance Master. Zhuan shook his head inwardly. He was dispirited. He knew that the Alchemy Array Immortal Alliance Master selection in each Dao domain mainly depended on the Alchemy Array Dao domain. If the Alchemy Array Dao domain did not agree, no matter how strong Zhuan was, he would not be able to become the Alliance Master. Fortunately, Zhuan was not too interested in the Alliance Master position. If those alchemists and Array Dao Masters had not pushed him to become the Alliance Master, he would not have had such thoughts. since Buyongrong did not intend to let him become the Eastern Immortal Alliance Master. What was the use of arguing? This competition was already unfair to begin with. Was he going to continue wasting his breath? Since Senior Boo feels that I am not qualified, then this jewel will not disturb you any further. I still have some important matters to attend to. I will take my leave first. Zhuowen cupped his hands towards Buyongrong. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, he walked out of the plaza. In the plaza, none of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance members asked Zhuowen to stay. Even Zhou Guan and Feng Yuan were silent. Zhuowen shook his head inwardly. He knew that no one in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance would ask him to stay. That would mean completely offending a powerful existence like Buyongrong. Buyongrong was also slightly stunned. He did not expect that Zhuowen would give up so easily. He thought that this kid would argue with all his might. Then, he would be able to use the reason of offending his superior to forcefully take him down. After all, this kid's array formation technique was extremely brilliant. It far surpassed the techniques he used. He was somewhat moved. Unfortunately, this Zhuowen gave up too quickly. He could not even find a reason to take him down. Wait! Suddenly, Zhu Wenlin, who was beside Buyongrong, called out to Zhuowen. Zhuowen turned his head and looked indifferently at Zhu Wenlin. He said, "Is there anything else?" Zhu Wenlin grinned and said, "Since you coveted the position of Eastern Immortal Alliance's alliance head, you should have dabbled in both the Alchemy Dao and Array Dao. I have seen your Array Dao standard. However, I do not know how your Alchemy Dao standard is. How about this? Let's have a pill battle. Let's see which of our Alchemy Dao standards is stronger." Zhuowen frowned. He looked strangely at the arrogant Zhu Wenlin. This guy was too cocky. He actually wanted to have a pill battle with him? Of course, he could also see that this Zhu Wenlin wanted to humiliate him before he left. He wanted to make him understand the consequences of coveting the position of Alliance Head. Zhuowen found it a little funny. He had never coveted the position of Alliance Head. He was just inexplicably nominated by others. Now that he was judged to be unqualified, the monkeys immediately scattered. No one tried to persuade him to stay. It could be seen that even if he became the Alliance Head, what was the use? Waiting to be stabbed in the back by these people in the future? What are you laughing at? Don't tell me you don't dare. You don't even dare to have a pill battle. Previously, you dared to covet the position of Alliance Head. Is a piece of trash like you qualified? Zhu Wenlin crossed his arms in front of his chest and mocked. Zhuowen said indifferently, "Then why don't you compete with me in Array Dao? I am better at Array Dao. Aren't you the future Alliance Head? Naturally, you'll be stronger than a nobody like me. Also, you keep saying that I am a piece of trash. If one day you're not as good as me, then what will you be? Less than trash?" Zhu Wenlin's face immediately darkened. He said coldly, "Coward, you don't even dare to have a pill battle. Get lost. Do you dare to say another word?" Zhuowen stared at Zhu Wenlin. His eyes were filled with a piercing coldness. An invisible aura surged out from the surroundings. Zhu Wenlin's face changed drastically. He could not help but stagger back a few steps, looking at Zhuowen in horror. That aura just now was really too terrifying. It gave him a feeling of suffocation. This guy was clearly just an eternal overlord. How could he have such a powerful aura? If you don't dare to say, then shut your mouth obediently for me. Zhuowen withdrew his aura and slowly walked towards Zhu Wenlin. Zhu Wenlin subconsciously took a step back and said, "What do you want to do?" "What do I want to do? Of course it's a pill battle." Chapter 3100. Pill Battle. Zhu Wenlin was first taken aback, then immediately came back to his senses. Revealing a hideous grin, he said, "Pill battle? Looks like you don't have any self-awareness at all." Seeing Zhuowen no longer make a move, Zhu Wenlin's courage returned. Flicking his finger, he similarly took out a pill furnace from his spirit ring. Zhu Wenlin's pill furnace was clearly much more exquisite compared to Zhuowen's Emperor pill furnace. The patterns on its surface were crisscrossed and complicated. One look, and it was clear that it was not an ordinary item. Zhou Guan and Feng Yuan, two people, exchanged a glance, both revealing odd looks. Back then, When Zhuan killed Ji Wuming, they only witnessed Zhuan's formations Dao standards. Regarding Zhuan's alchemy Dao, they had no concept at all. They subconsciously thought that Zhuan was so young. For his formations Dao standards, to reach the creation level was already very terrifying. His alchemy Dao could not possibly reach the corresponding height at the same time. After all, alchemy Dao and formations Dao were two completely different paths. Wanting to develop these two paths at the same time, one would surely need to expend too much time. Ji Wuming's alchemy way and array way had both reached the creation level. However, he had been studying these two paths for hundreds of thousands of years, while Zhuan had been born for less than 10,000 years. It was impossible for him to reach Ji Wuming's level. Bu Yangrong stood by one side, watching with cold eyes. He was very satisfied with Zhu Wenlin's way of doing things, giving him a reason to make Zhuan stay. Since you all decided to have a pill battle, then I'll be the judge this time, Bu Yangrong said with a laugh. Zhuan did not even look at Bu Yangrong, but looked at Zhu Wenlin and said, "This pill battle was proposed by you. The criteria for winning and losing, you decide. But my pill battle isn't for playing with you either. There has to be some stakes, right? Ho, you rest assured, you'll lose for sure. And if you lose, hand over your formation's Dao inheritance to me," Zhu Wenlin said with a cold smile. Zhuan's gaze narrowed, and he looked at the Bu Yangrong who was not far away. Looks like when he laid down the moon-chasing meteor array, previously, Bu Yangrong saw through some inklings. This Zhu Wenlin wanting the formation's Dao inheritance on him should be proposed by Bu Yangrong. Thinking of this, Zhuan became slightly cautious. The alchemy array, true record, was of great importance. If the alchemy array, Dao domain learned of it, it would not be a good thing for him. What if you lose? Zhuan asked faintly. Would I lose to you? It's important to have self-awareness. I don't think I see it in you. If I say you will lose, you will lose. As for winning, in my opinion, it won't happen to you, Zhu Wenlin said proudly. Zhuan looked at the blindly conceited Zhu Wenlin as if he was looking at an idiot. This guy was merely a Genesis-tier alchemist, yet he actually dared to declare that he would definitely win in an alchemy duel with him. Senior Bu, this idiot probably didn't understand my words. Let me explain it to you. If I win, what benefits can I obtain? Zhuan directly asked Bu Yangrong. Zhu Wenlin was angered until he nearly stomped his feet. This Zhuan was too arrogant to actually declare that he was an idiot. This was undisguised contempt. Bu Yangrong knitted his brows unhappily. Even though Zhu Wenlin's words were inappropriate, he was his disciple after all. This Zhuan, making impertinent remarks, was actually slapping his face sideways. You say it, what do you want? Bu Yangrong said coolly. I want your lifetime of alchemy and formations Dao research experience. Zhuan said. Bu Yangrong's alchemy and formations Dao standards were both above Zhuan's. Even though they were both just peak creation level, he already touched the threshold of heaven connecting level. His alchemy and formations Dao experience was of great help to Zhuan. Bu Yangrong's brows furrowed, somewhat hesitant. This Zhuan agreeing to an alchemy duel with Zhu Wenlin so easily made him somewhat uncertain about this boy's thoughts. His alchemy and formations Dao research experience was his lifetime's painstaking effort. It was priceless. Even Zhu Wenlin, this disciple that he was most proud of, had never seen it before. Teacher, believe me, this boy will lose without a doubt. Didn't you see the information from the Eastern Immortal Alliance? Zhu Wenlin's confident voice sounded in Bu Yangrong's mind. Bu Yangrong recalled the contents of the information that the Eastern Immortal Alliance passed to him. He had already confirmed that this boy did not display a strong alchemy standard, and his heart relaxed. I agree to your request, but the prerequisite is that you have to win. Let the alchemy duel begin now. The content of the alchemy duel this time is very simple. Refine the Fetal Heart True Fire Divine pill, and the winner will be determined according to the quality of the final pill. I will provide 3 sets of the Fetal Heart True Fire Divine pill's medicinal herbs for each of you, so you have 3 chances. As Bu Yangrong spoke, he waved his sleeve and took out 6 sets of medicinal herbs. He placed 3 sets beside Zhu Wenlin and the other 3 sets beside Zhuowen. Zhuowen silently looked at the 3 sets of medicinal herbs beside him, and his gaze became cold. He used his divine sense to check. 2 of the 3 sets of medicinal herbs had lost most of their medicinal efficacy, and the remaining set of medicinal herbs was still in good condition, but the quality was still extremely low. If one wanted to use these medicinal herbs to refine the Fetal Heart True Fire Divine Pill, the refinement would definitely fail. On the contrary, Zhu Wenlin's 3 sets of medicinal herbs were of extremely high quality. This was an unfair competition. Bu Yangrong did it perfectly. His 3 sets of medicinal herbs looked to be of high quality on the surface, but that was only on the surface. If not for Zhuowen's divine sense being nurtured by the Panga banner, which made it much sharper than the average divine sense, he might not have discovered Bu Yangrong's tricks. Let the alchemy duel begin now, Bu Yangrong ordered. Zhu Wenlin immediately ignited the divine fire, opened the furnace lid, and took out the first set of medicinal herbs. He threw the medicinal herbs into the furnace in an orderly manner and began to refine the Fetal Heart True Fire Divine Pill. Zhuowen sat cross-legged beside the imperial pill furnace. He did not reveal the problem with the medicinal herbs that Bu Yangrong gave him. He knew that if he pointed it out, Bu Yangrong would immediately find an excuse to target him. Now, Zhuowen's only problem was that the 3 sets of medicinal herbs were incomplete. Even the cleverest housewife could not cook without rice. No matter how high his alchemy skills were, if the medicinal herbs were not good enough, he would not be able to refine a complete divine pill. He was a creation-grade alchemist. Refining the Fetal Heart True Fire Divine Pill was too easy for him. 1 set of medicinal herbs was enough. Now, what he needed to think about was to refine the 3 sets of medicinal herbs and fuse them into a complete set of medicinal herbs. This was the key to his victory. Thus, the people in the square saw a strange scene. Zhu Wenlin seriously tossed the medicinal ingredients into the cauldron, but Zhuowen didn't touch the cauldron at all. Instead, he used the divine flame to envelop the 3 sets of medicinal ingredients. Like a hodgepodge in a wok, he fused the 3 sets of medicinal ingredients together. What's wrong with this guy? Why is he fusing the 3 sets of medicinal herbs together instead of refining pills properly? As expected, this guy really doesn't know how to refine pills. Look, he doesn't even use a furnace to refine pills. This is making us laugh our heads off. In the square, many members of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance shook their heads in disappointment. The new alliance master that they were looking forward to really did not know anything about alchemy. Chapter 3101. Opening the furnace, this guy already found out that there are problems with the 3 sets of ingredients. While everyone was mocking him, Bu Yangrong's eyes were solemn. Among the crowd, only he knew that Zhuowen's 3 sets of ingredients were flawed. If Zhuowen refined the pills directly, he would definitely fail all 3 times. Forget it. So what if this kid found out? Could it be that refining the 3 sets of ingredients together can make up for the flaws of the 3 sets of ingredients? Bu Yangrong shook his head inwardly. In his opinion, this Zhuowen was just wasting his effort. Time ticked by, and Zhu Wenlin's first batch of Fetal Heart True Fire Divine pills was about to be completed. A thick medicinal fragrance spread out from the gap of the furnace lid, spreading throughout the entire square. Zhu Wenlin is about to refine the Fetal Heart True Fire Divine Pill. Looks like this Zhuowen is going to lose. Zhou Guan could not help but shake his head and sigh softly as he smelled the medicinal fragrance in the square. Bang! Suddenly, when the medicinal fragrance reached its peak, a muffled sound rang out. Everyone was shocked to find that the furnace lid in front of Zhu Wenlin shook violently, and black smoke floated out from the lid. Without a doubt, Zhu Wenlin's first attempt at refining the Fetal Heart True Fire Divine Pill had failed. Zhu Wenlin's eyes revealed a trace of annoyance, but when he looked at Zhuowen, who was still refining the 3 sets of ingredients, his heart calmed down. Zhuowen's side had problems with the ingredients, And Buyang Rong had already told him that this kid would definitely not be able to refine the fetal heart true fire divine pill this time. Zhu Wenlin knew that as long as he could successfully refine the pill, no matter how bad the quality was, he would win. Just now, he was too eager for quick success and wanted to refine a unique grade fetal heart true fire divine pill. He could not grasp the step of refining the pill properly, so he failed in the end. With his level, as long as his requirements were not too high, refining the most ordinary low-grade fetal heart true fire divine pill was more than enough. However, Zhu Wenlin was not in a hurry. He still had 2 chances. He planned to try refining a unique grade fetal heart true fire divine pill again. Zhu Wenlin lit the divine flame and threw the second set of ingredients into the furnace, continuing to refine the pill in an orderly manner. On Zhu Wen's side, he was still smelting the 3 sets of herbs. It was very difficult for him to refine 3 batches of incomplete medicinal herbs into a complete set of medicinal herbs, because during the smelting process, he had to use his divine sense to distinguish where the flaws of the 3 medicinal herbs were. After figuring out the flaws of the herbs, he still had to analyze the specific structure and composition of the 3 sets of herbs. He had to disassemble the structure and composition of the 3 sets of herbs into tiny particles. In the end, he had to rearrange and reassemble the separated substances to form a truly flawless medicinal herb. In this process, as long as there was a single mistake, everything would go wrong, and he would not have the chance to successfully refine the fetus heart true fire divine pill. At this moment, almost no one in the square was paying attention to Zhuowen. Zhuowen had long been defined as a trash who completely did not understand alchemy Tao in everyone's hearts. Not many people had the patience to watch the performance of a piece of trash. Zhu Wenlin's second refinement was coming to an end. This time, the medicinal fragrance from the furnace lid was even stronger. Even the spectators at the edge of the square could clearly smell the medicinal fragrance. Open! Zhu Wenlin's eyes lit up. He had a premonition that the refinement this time would be successful. He slapped the furnace lid, and 12 light spots flew out from the furnace. Zhu Wenlin's palm reached into the void and took the 12 light spots into his palm. Then he opened his palm, and there were 12 dimly glowing elixirs lying quietly on top of it. The elixirs emitted an extremely dense medicinal fragrance. However, like ice and snow, they began to melt. As the elixirs continued to melt, the medicinal fragrance became even stronger and even a little pungent. Zhu Wenlin watched as the elixirs in his hand completely evaporated into medicinal fragrance. His eyes were filled with disappointment. Disciple, your standard has not reached the level to refine the special grade fetus heart true fire divine pill. In the future, I will guide you on your flaws. However, now is the crucial moment of the alchemy battle. Don't drop the ball at this moment. Buyang Rong's voice rang in Zhu Wenlin's mind, causing the latter to quiver. Teacher, don't worry. I won't mess up this 3rd time. After Zhu Wenlin finished speaking, he began to refine the elixirs for the 3rd time. This time, he did not refine the special grade fetus heart true fire divine pill. Instead, he chose the low-grade ones. Zhu Wenlin's technique was extremely skillful. Like moving clouds and flowing water, he threw the last set of herbs into the furnace. Time gradually passed. Zhu Wenlin's furnace emitted a medicinal fragrance once again. However, the medicinal fragrance this time was much fainter than the previous 2 times. Zhu Wenlin's eyes were solemn. At the last step, he slapped the furnace lid with both hands. The furnace lid opened and 12 elixirs flew out. Zhu Wenlin used a jade bottle to keep the 12 elixirs. Then he passed the jade bottle to Buyang Rong and looked at Zhuowen with ridicule. Zhuowen, do you know anything about alchemy Tao? How can anyone refine elixirs like you, fusing 3 sets of the same herbs together? You're not here for the alchemy battle. You're here to be funny. Zhu Wenlin mocked Zhuowen wantonly. He had already determined that it was impossible for Zhuowen to successfully refine the elixir, so he mocked and humiliated him without any worries. Zhuowen ignored Zhu Wenlin. The smelting had already reached the final stage. Once the smelting was successful, he would be able to immediately start refining the elixir. Seeing that Zhuowen ignored him, Zhu Wenlin was very unhappy. He scolded loudly. "Zhuowen, you have already lost. What are you still struggling for? Stop what you're doing and hand over the inheritance of the array Dao in your hands." Previously, Buyang Rong said that the winner of the pill battle is not determined by who finishes refining first, but by the one with the higher quality of the pill. Your dog eyes should be blind. Can't you see that I'm still refining the elixir? Since I'm not done yet, then the winner has not been decided yet. Zhuowen replied indifferently and continued to refine the herbs. He was not in a hurry, like an old monk meditating. Zhu Wenlin was so angry that his liver hurt, but he did not step forward to attack Zhuowen. Even though he was very angry, he was not an idiot. Previously, Buyang Rong had indeed set such a rule. If he were to make a move, it would be equivalent to slapping his teacher's face. Buyang Rong looked on coldly from the sidelines. He was also very curious as to how this Zhuowen was going to use 3 sets of incomplete herbs to refine a complete fetal heart true fire divine pill. Suddenly, Zhuowen stopped what he was doing. His eyes revealed a trace of joy in the divine fire in his hands. The 3 sets of herbs had already completely melted into a slightly turbid medicinal liquid. It was simply impossible to tell that this medicinal liquid had not melted yet. Bang! Zhuowen slammed the lid of the Emperor Pill cauldron open and poured the turbid medicinal liquid into the cauldron. At the same time, he ignited his divine fire and officially started refining the elixir. This Zhuowen is finally starting to use the pill furnace. However, can that paste of medicinal liquid really refine the fetal heart true fire divine pill? Everyone's eyes lit up when they saw Zhuowen's actions. However, they quickly expressed their doubts in their hearts. This Zhuowen's alchemy standard was really too strange. After all, this guy's previous actions of refining the elixir were simply too strange. Chapter 3105. Riddles. After the black liquid had gathered on the surface of the silver-gray iron tree, it formed a huge ball of liquid. This ball of liquid quickly wriggled and finally turned into a huge black lion. The black lion was too big. Its body was thousands of feet long and 300 feet tall. Its surface looked like it was made of black iron and was densely covered with patterns. If this black lion was not moving its body, it would definitely be a perfect black iron sculpture. Roar! The black lion stretched its back and roared towards the sky. Its voice was like a thunderclap as it resounded and swept up a strange black wind. Zhuowen continued to retreat. After retreating to a safe distance, he looked at the black iron lion with a serious expression. The area below his waist had completely disappeared, but the wound had stopped bleeding and was no longer bleeding. The silver-gray iron tree was not an ordinary object. The large mouth that it had just manifested had a special power and was extremely destructive. Although Zhuowen's recovery was terrifying, it was restrained. It would take some time for him to completely recover. At the same time, Zhuowen saw the black box that was under the silver-gray iron tree on the black iron lion's neck. The black box hung under the lion's neck like an ornament. After the black iron lion appeared, it quietly stood on the meteorite belt. Its pitch-black eyes fell on the distant Zhuowen with curiosity. It did not directly attack Zhuowen. Instead, it quietly observed as if it had encountered something new. Zhuowen's muscles tensed. If the black iron lion suddenly attacked, he would not hesitate to use his trump card. The black iron lion's aura was terrifying, but it would not be so easy to kill him on the spot. A human? Why have you come to the black iron forbidden zone? The black iron lion suddenly spoke. Its voice was a little childish, like that of a child. I have guarded this place for countless years. Very few humans have entered the black iron forbidden zone. Even if they did, they entered by mistake. But they all lost a bet with me, so I ate them. You don't look like you entered by mistake. Did you come here specifically to make a bet with me? When the black steel lion mentioned the bet, its tone was obviously much more cheerful. It was obvious that this beast liked to gamble. Thinking of this, Zhuan's eyes were filled with a strange look. He had seen many people who liked to gamble, but this was the first time he had seen a lion who liked to gamble. Although he didn't really understand what kind of place this so-called Black Iron Forbidden Zone was, he could tell from the lion's mouth that this place should be able to enter the prehistoric heaven realm. However, passing through this place was not without a price. Wanted to make a bet with the lion, and the loser would be treated as food. The winner should be able to enter the great desolate heaven realm through the black box on the lion's neck. The Saintess of the Phoenix people tricked me again. Zhuan furrowed his brows. Before coming here, he had repeatedly asked about the dangers of this place. The Saintess of the Phoenix people only told him some information about the Black Iron Rats and assured him that this forbidden area was not too dangerous. Now, it seemed that he had been tricked. I want to ask, is there a secret passage to the great desolate heaven realm here? Zhuan asked the Black Iron Lion in front of him as he recovered his broken lower body. The Black Iron Lion was not in a hurry to attack. It was obvious that it wanted to make a bet with him. He could use this time to recover his broken body. The Black Iron Lion bared its teeth, as if it was laughing, and said, "Yes, my black box can directly teleport you into the great desolate heaven realm, but I can only guarantee that you'll be able to enter the range of the great desolate heaven realm. As for the exact location, I'm afraid I can't guarantee. Of course, if you want me to teleport, there are conditions. That is to make a bet with me, and you have to win against me." Zhuan was speechless as he looked at the Black Iron Lion in front of him. This guy was too good at gambling. He kept talking about the word bet. "Tell me, what do you want to bet?" Zhuan was helpless. He knew that if he wanted to enter the great desolate heaven realm, he could only make a bet with this lion. Seeing that Zhuan had agreed to make a bet with it, the Black Iron Lion rubbed its hands excitedly. Its big black eyes were filled with joy. "It's very simple to make a bet with me. My favorite thing is to guess riddles. If I say 10,000 riddles, as long as you can guess them all, then it's my loss. Isn't it very simple?" The Black Iron Lion chuckled. Zhuan rolled his eyes. Looking at the human-like Black Iron Lion in front of him, he cursed in his heart. This lion was playing with him, right? 10,000 riddles. Was this guy sure he wasn't joking? Your expression doesn't look right. Do you think that 10,000 riddles are too few? But even if you think it's too few, it's useless. I've only mastered 10,000 riddles so far. I will collect more in the future. This time, I will guess 10,000 riddles. Consider it a bargain for you. The Black Iron Lion said casually. Zhuan felt a little helpless. This Black Iron Lion was too weird. It actually used guessing riddles as a bet. This really made him drop his glasses. However, Zhuan didn't plan to back down. When he was on Earth in his previous life, there was an explosion of information on the internet. He had seen a lot of information, and he was even more interested in things like riddles and problem solving. He knew the core of the riddle. Since he had mastered the core of the riddle, it wasn't difficult to guess the answer. Then I will give you the question now. This first question is a bit difficult. It might be a bit difficult for you. Little fatty, wearing hemp clothes, red shirt, white belly, hiding in a shell. It's a plant. After the Black Iron Lion finished the riddle, its eyes revealed a proud expression, as if it was showing off that the riddle it said was indeed very difficult. However, Zhuan revealed a strange expression. This riddle was simply an insult to his intelligence. This was basically a riddle for children back on Earth in his previous life. You can't guess it right. If you can't guess it right, then you will have to accept the punishment. I will swallow you without any pain. The Black Iron Lion lay on the meteorite pile and laughed proudly. "Peanuts," Zhuan said indifferently. "Ga, you actually guessed it right. You're the first person to be able to answer the riddle quickly. I can't underestimate you." The Black Iron Lion was stunned and immediately revealed a dignified expression, as if it had met a powerful opponent. Zhuan was a little speechless. His heart was crumbling. How was the riddle that the lion said difficult? It was simply a child's play. This guy actually praised him without blushing at all, as if Zhuowen had solved a difficult riddle. These two small boats are really capable. They carry people during the day and dock at night. Hint, it's a daily necklace. Shoes. It looks like a small palm. Countless, countless. When the spring breeze blows, it's green. When the autumn breeze blows, it's red. No more hints, you answer. Maple leaf. A man and a lion, sitting opposite each other on a meteorite belt, asked and answered. Time passed quickly. This is my last riddle, and also my final question. If you can answer it, I admit defeat. The black iron lion's gaze was very dignified. It looked at Zhuowen and said in a low voice, Chapter 3106. News from the demon realm. The black iron lion cleared its throat and revealed the final riddle. It's either as heavy as Mount Tai or as light as a feather. I got this riddle from a human. Even I can't solve it. It's so hard. Let's see how you're going to answer it. Zhuowen had a strange expression on his face. Is this riddle very difficult? The black iron lion blinked and nodded solemnly. This last riddle was not difficult for Zhuowen because this riddle was a lantern riddle from his previous life, and it was one that he had seen before. You can't answer it, right? The black iron lion was very pleased with itself. This human had answered every riddle that it had mentioned, and this made it feel very embarrassed. Lion, can I ask you a question before I answer the riddle? Zhuowen asked. The black iron lion was enraged. Who are you calling a lion? I'm the revered Black King. Call me the Black King, okay? All right, Black King, can I ask you a question before I answer the riddle? Zhuowen asked again helplessly. No, the Black King said mockingly. Unless you can answer this last riddle. But looking at you, I don't think you can answer it. Haha, I knew it. My final riddle is too difficult. The person who can answer it hasn't been born yet. The Black King laughed heartily. It was very pleased with itself, and it twisted its huge body as if it was dancing. Oh, I got it. This riddle is actually not very difficult. The answer to the riddle should be impudent. Now that I've answered it, I should be able to ask you a question. Zhuowen shrugged helplessly. The Black King, who was twisting its body, suddenly stiffened. It looked at Zhuowen as if it was looking at a ghost, as if it could not believe that this guy could answer the riddle just like that. You actually answered it? What a difficult riddle. The Black King felt as if its worldview had collapsed. Zhuowen coughed. He smiled and didn't say anything. If he said that this was a riddle from his previous life, as long as it was in his previous life and they had access to information on the internet, most people could easily solve this riddle using the internet. The Black King would probably be shocked to death. All right, now I can ask you a question. Zhuowen coughed dryly. The Black King's gaze was serious. It nodded and said, Human, what's your name? You can solve my final riddle, so you deserve my respect. If you have any other questions, you can ask me. My name is Zhuowen. The question I want to ask is very simple. How do you know so many puzzles? When the Black King raised the first riddle, Zhuowen had already suspected that this guy had been to Earth before. As he continued to answer this guy's riddles, he gradually realized that the riddles that the Black King came up with were basically riddles and lantern riddles that China had accumulated over the past 5,000 years. The Black King chuckled and said, I thought it was some kind of problem. So it's this. These riddles were given to me by some of the demons who were heading to the great desolate heaven realm. Of course, there are also some human stowaways who want to enter the great desolate heaven realm through me. They know my hobbies and will specially prepare some different riddles for me. That's how my riddles were accumulated. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, Humans and demons? Didn't they say the humans are not allowed to enter the great desolate heaven realm? There are actually human stowaways going to the great desolate heaven realm? The Black King smiled faintly and said, The great desolate heaven realm is mainly targeting the human race of the Xian Mi heavenly realm. As long as the human race of the Xian Mi heavenly realm enters the great desolate heaven realm, they will be easily recognized and attacked. But the human race of the demon realm is not. I heard that after the Eastern Emperor Tai unified the 8 heavenly realms, he called it the demon realm. Although many humans were demonized in the demon realm, there were still some human experts who survived. Dong Wangtai did not kill these experts of the human tribe. Instead, he used the policy of conciliation to gather all of them for his use. Therefore, in the demon realm, the human tribe and the demon tribe have coexisted. Of course, although the human race of the demon realm possesses the bloodline of the human race, they do not call themselves humans. Instead, they call themselves half-demons. Furthermore, the demon realm and the great desolate heaven realm seem to have signed some kind of agreement. The demon race and half-demon race can both enter the periphery of the great desolate heaven realm. This is also why there are more and more stowaways. Furthermore, the more stowaways there are, the better it is for me. Those stowaways will often bring me some pretty good gadgets, and there are so many interesting riddles. Hee hee. Speaking of stowaways, this lion was beaming with joy. This fellow was full of praise for stowaways, although sometimes when he was in a bad mood, he would swallow some unlucky stowaways. However, this fellow generally had a welcoming attitude towards stowaways. He would only eat stowaways when he was in a bad mood. Under normal circumstances, he would not do so. Zhuowen, on the other hand, fell into deep thought. It seemed that the Eastern Emperor Tai was quite capable. Not only did he unify the 8 heavens into the demon realm, he also used such a conciliatory policy to appease the human race, causing the human race of the 8 heavens to have a sense of belonging to the demon realm. Furthermore, Zhuowen was certain that a portion of the stowaways came from Earth. After all, these riddles and riddles all came from Earth. Black King, I've won. You should have used your black box to teleport me into the great desolate heaven realm, Zhuowen said. The Black King looked at Zhuowen strangely and said, Zhuowen, you should be a human from the Xianmi heavenly realm, right? Do you know that the great desolate heaven realm and the Xianmi heavenly realm are enemies? With your identity, entering the Xianmi heavenly realm, you won't be as lucky as the humans in the demon realm to be protected. I will take care of this matter. Don't worry. Zhuowen smiled faintly. He did not tell the Black King that he had the bloodline of the Devourer King. As long as he entered the great desolate heaven realm, placed his original human body in the outside world, and then activated the bloodline of the Devourer King hidden in his doppelganger, the foreign races would naturally not notice anything strange. Seeing Zhuowen smile without saying anything, the Black King shrugged and did not say anything. He took the black box from his neck with his huge claw. He drew a drop of blood and dripped it on the black box. Immediately, the black box opened automatically. Inside the black box, there was a special flowing light of light and darkness that seemed to transcend time and space. Go in. After entering, you will see a path. Follow that path, and you will be able to enter the great desolate heaven realm. However, I must remind you that while walking on this path, you must not turn back. No matter what you hear, you must not turn back. You must remember. It is a terrifying place. That place is a place where there are no laws, no restrictions, and no rules. Only the size of your fist is everything there. You are the emperor above everyone. Moreover, that place doesn't have heavenly energy or heavenly law. There is no lack of experts there. I'm afraid Zhuowen won't be able to last long there. The old man's gaze was calm as he said indifferently, I know Zhuowen better than you. I have watched him grow up. There's a kind of tenacity in his character. He is like a blade of grass in the wind. You can destroy him, but you can't make him yield. At this point, the old man sized up the Black King in front of him seriously. The Black King immediately put up his guard and said, Sanqing, what are you doing? Don't look at me with such ambiguous eyes. Let me tell you, I am a normal person. The old man held his forehead and said, Don't you like to bet? How about this? You and I can make a bet. Bet on what? The Black King was immediately energized when the bet was mentioned. Let's bet that this kid can last for 49 days in the Massacre Heavenly Domain. If he can last for 49 days, it will be my win. If he can't, it will be my loss. The old man said indifferently. The Black King smiled proudly and said, "This kid's cultivation is too weak. I don't think he can last for 49 days. I will bet with you. If I win, I want your revelation waste token. Don't worry, if he can't last, I will teleport him to the primitive heavenly domain." The old man said indifferently, "If he can last for 49 days, you will also have to teleport him to the primitive heavenly domain. Of course, if I win, I don't want anything. I want a favor from you." The Black King raised his eyebrows and looked at the old man deeply. He laughed and said, "Then it's decided. This is a crystal ball to monitor the massacre heavenly domain. You can use this crystal ball to observe Zhuowen's every move in the massacre heavenly domain." The old man took the crystal ball. After thanking the Black King, he disappeared into the starry sky. The Black King, on the other hand, had once again transformed into a black iron forest. In the deepest part of the black iron forest, the silver-gray iron tree stood out like a crane among chickens. Under the tree, a black box appeared very inconspicuous. Zhuowen felt a wave of dizziness. Then, he saw a world of light and darkness in front of him. In the sky of this world of light and darkness, there was a great path formed by light and darkness. It was like an unchanging bridge that connected to the other side. Zhuowen knew that this was the great path that the Black King had mentioned. Zhuowen jumped onto the great path and immediately felt a strong pressure crushing down on him, causing his body to sink. The moment Zhuowen entered the great path, he had already put his human body into the great world. Bang! Zhuowen's body erupted with crystalline light. His body was as resplendent as glass. His aura was like a ferocious beast that had awoken from a deep slumber, constantly rising and exploding. He quickly took a step forward and charged forward. Every step he took on the great path of light and darkness produced a dense and crisp sound, as if his bones were being crushed. This great path of light and darkness was extremely long. After running for nearly 2 hours, Zhuowen found that there was still no end to the great path in front of him. He couldn't see the other side at all. At this moment, a ghostly shrill scream came from behind Zhuowen's head. The sound was far and near at the same time. It was a little erratic. Zhuowen frowned. He wanted to turn around to see if something was following him. Chapter 3108. Miss. The pitiful cries came closer and closer, like there was a ghost following Zhuowen. Moreover, it was faster than Zhuowen. In the end, the pitiful cries came from the back of Zhuowen's head, roaring in his ears. It was like the ghost was right beside Zhuowen's ears, constantly shouting. It was like it was reminding Zhuowen that if he didn't take a look, he wouldn't even know who killed him. But Zhuowen was very calm. He looked forward and kept running, not moving at all. Suddenly, the pitiful cries stopped and was replaced by a voice filled with hidden bitterness. "Husband, I'm right behind you. Why don't you look back and take me away?" A voice as gentle as the spring breeze came from behind him. Zhuowen's body trembled, and his calm eyes filled with a trace of unease. He was too familiar with this gentle voice. It was Mu Qinshue's voice. At this moment, Zhuowen stopped in his tracks and slowly turned his head. He wanted to see if the owner of the voice behind him was really the woman he loved deeply. But when he turned his head halfway, he immediately froze. Qinshui can't be here. She's still with the Phoenix people. Zhuowen revealed a firm look. He always remembered the Black King's warning. No matter what happened, he was not allowed to look back. Zhuowen's gaze returned to the front, and he continued running. "Husband, when did you become this heartless?" "I am Qinshui. I just escaped from the Phoenix people and planned to leave the great desolate realm through this passage, but I never thought I would meet you here. I'm very happy, but why are you ignoring me? Did you forget about me?" Mu Qinshue's voice sounded again, but this time her voice was a bit distant. It was filled with bitterness and sadness, like the woman behind him was sadly leaving Zhuowen. Zhuowen stopped again. His body stiffened and his eyes revealed a struggling look. The voice behind him was the same as Mu Qinshue's voice in his memory. It was so familiar and gentle. However, the resentment in her voice stirred his heart. He had an impulse to believe that the voice behind him was real, that it was really Mu Qinshui. But Zhuan did not look back. His eyes were firm as he thought of the Black King's words. In this light and darkness path, one could not turn back. Once one turned back, there would be an unpredictable disaster. Zhua, one continued to run, and the sound behind him gradually grew fainter and fainter until it finally disappeared. Near the tree in front. All of a sudden, Zhuan noticed a bronze tree standing in the distance. The place where this bronze tree was located was the end of the path of light and darkness, which was the so-called other shore. At the bottom of the light and darkness path was a light and darkness river. In this light and darkness river, a small boat with light and darkness intertwined was floating. At the end of the boat, a man wearing a straw raincoat and a bamboo hat was holding a light and darkness wood paddle. He kept moving the paddle and driving the boat forward. The man's face was mostly covered by the bamboo hat, so one could not see his face clearly. At the head of the boat stood two figures, a man and a woman. The man looked very old, like an old man in his 70s. However, his aura was very strong, and his eyes were like fire. The woman standing beside the old man was a woman with a very hot figure. She exuded a sexy and mature aura from head to toe. Zhuan was not unfamiliar with the old man and the woman. The woman was the grand elder of the Phoenix people, Mu Yu, whom he had met on the star battlefield. The old man was the third elder of the Phoenix people who had taken Mu Qinshui away in the Daffin Sky domain. Grand Elder, why did you keep looking at the light and darkness path just now? The third elder looked at the sexy woman beside him and then at the light and darkness path in the light and darkness world. Mu Yu turned her head and said, "Just now, I saw a figure on the path of light and darkness. That figure gave me a very familiar feeling. That light and darkness path? Looks like the Black King is in a bad mood again." He actually pointed out the light and darkness path to the stowaways. If I remember correctly, the light and darkness path should lead to the massacre heavenly domain. The third elder looked at the light and darkness path with pity in his eyes. The Black King is temperamental. None of us can understand him. We still have to rely on him the next time we go back to the primitive heavenly domain. So, when we reach the exit, don't talk nonsense. Don't forget the gifts that you have prepared. Mu Yu said seriously. The third elder hurriedly agreed. He said carefully, "Grand Elder, I remember that the connection between the demon realm and the primitive heavenly domain is on the other side. This is the path to the star battlefield. The connection to the demon realm has been forcibly filled by the Eastern Emperor Tai. The creatures of the primitive heavenly domain can't pass at all. After all, the demon realm has just been established. Its strength is much weaker than the primitive heavenly domain. The Eastern Emperor Tai naturally has to guard against it." Mu Yu shook her head helplessly. Obviously, she was unhappy with the Eastern Emperor Tai's actions. However, she could do nothing about it. The Eastern Emperor Tai was too powerful. He was one of the top experts under the starry sky. Who dared not to give him face? "Grand Elder, are you really going to bring Mu Qinshui to the demon realm this time? Her 99 Phoenix physique's bloodline has almost been completely extracted. She no longer has any value. Why did you still keep her alive? And why did you muster so many people to bring her to the demon region?" The third elder asked with some doubt. "Mu Qinshui is the most important bargaining chip in our hands. Our holy maiden is still in the hands of that Zhuan, and this Mu Qinshui is that Zhuan's favorite wife. In the future, we can use Mu Qinshui as a bargaining chip to exchange for the holy maiden. In addition, I heard that this Mu Qinshui and Zhuan both came from the 8 heavenly domains, which is the current demon realm. I want to go to the demon realm, where this Mu Qinshui was born, and see why this mere human race can have the 99 Phoenix body. Perhaps there will be an important discovery." When Mu Yu thought of Zhuan, her eyes immediately became gloomy. The foreign race army should have already occupied the two great space camps of the human race by now. However, because of that Zhuowen, the invasion that the foreign race had been preparing for many years had been ruined. After escaping from the space battlefield, Muyu frantically searched for information about Long One. Later, she found out that Long One was just an alias. His real identity was Zhuowen, and this Zhuowen was Mu Qinshue's husband. The third elder's eyes lit up. When he brought Mu Qinshu back to the Phoenix people, he wanted to make Mu Qinshu the holy maiden of the Phoenix people. However, he didn't expect that after careful examination, Mu Qinshu, who had the 99 Phoenix body, had the bloodline origin of a human. The 99 Phoenix body's bloodline was only attached to her body. In essence, Mu Qinshu was a human with a 99 Phoenix body's bloodline. She didn't have much to do with the Phoenix people. The Phoenix people were in an uproar. After a discussion, they imprisoned Mu Qinshu. They wouldn't allow a human to become the holy maiden of the Phoenix people. Otherwise, they would become the laughingstock of the entire primitive heaven domain. Chapter 3109. Massacre. Heavenjuan stood beneath the bronze tree. At the end of the path of light and darkness, besides the bronze tree, there was a seemingly solid mountain blocking his path. The bronze tree's surface glowed with bronze light, and at the center of the tree was a palm-sized blood tattoo. The blood tattoo was very complex and exuded a thick stench of blood. Below the blood tattoo were 3 grooves. From their shape, they should be used to place heavenly Tao origin crystals. Zhuowen took out 3 supreme-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals and placed them in the grooves. Immediately, the blood tattoo on the bronze tree began to spin rapidly, emitting a powerful bloody light. The bloody light spread out, forming a bloody vortex that sucked Zhuowen in. Zhuowen did not resist. He could tell that the blood tattoo was actually a teleportation array. Shoving in 3 supreme-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals would allow him to leave this place. Light and darkness flashed before Zhuowen's eyes, and he discovered that he was standing on a desert. Around him was a boundless wasteland, and above the wasteland hung a scorching sun. And there were 3 of these scorching suns in the wasteland. They floated in the air in a triangular shape, releasing terrifying heat. The moment Zhuowen entered this place, he immediately felt that something was wrong. He discovered that he could not sense any heavenly Tao laws or heavenly Tao energy in this place. In other words, this was a world that was extremely lacking in energy. And what made his expression even more gloomy was that the moment he entered this place, he could not control this major world, let alone open it. In a place without heavenly Tao energy or laws, the energy in his body would constantly dissipate with the passage of time. In the end, because he could not obtain any energy to replenish himself, he would be like a mortal who had lost all his cultivation. This was not the first time Zhuowen had encountered such a situation. Back then, he had also entered a similar place. He knew that this sort of place was definitely an abandoned land of the starry sky, a place rejected by the starry sky. In other words, it was a land abandoned by the heavens. But shouldn't he have entered the primitive heaven domain? Zhuowen's gaze was serious. He had already realized that the place he had entered was very likely not the so-called prehistoric heaven realm. That was the Black King's doing. Zhuowen thought of the Black King. Only the Black King could control the direction of the black box. Zhuowen leaped into the Gobi Desert and began to communicate with his main body in the Great World. He planned to have his main body ask the saintess of the Phoenix people in the Great World what was going on here. Although he couldn't open the Great World, there was still a mental connection between his original body and his doppelganger, which couldn't be broken. After receiving the feedback from his main body, Zhuowen's expression became extremely gloomy. The saintess of the Phoenix people was right. There was indeed a passage to the primitive heaven realm in the black box. According to the Phoenix people's saint, there were 2 paths in the black box. One was the path of light and darkness, and the other was the light and darkness river. Among them, the Light and Darkness River was the correct path to enter and exit the prehistoric heavenly realm. As for the Light and Darkness Road, it led to a place called the Massacre Heavenly Realm. The so-called Slaughter Heavenly Domain was the place where the criminals and captives of the primitive heavenly domain were kept. Its history was much longer than the Xianmi Heavenly Domain. It was a very terrifying place. Of course, although the Massacre Heavenly Domain was also called a heavenly domain, it wasn't very big. It was only about 1% of the primitive heavenly domain. Rather than calling it a heavenly domain, it was more like a secret realm attached to the primitive heavenly domain. Since the birth of the primitive heavenly domain, the Massacre Heavenly Domain had appeared as a companion to the primitive heavenly domain. However, because the Massacre Heavenly Domain was a place abandoned by the heavens, it wasn't suitable for living creatures to live in. After all, if one entered such a place abandoned by the heavens, the final result would be to become an ordinary person. Their cultivation wouldn't be of any use at all. Moreover, the longer one stayed in this place abandoned by the heavens, the more unstable one's cultivation would be, which could lead to a drop in cultivation. After the creatures of the primitive heavenly domain discovered the Massacre Heavenly Domain, they treated it like a dungeon. All the criminals of the primitive heavenly domain, or the captives of the Xianmi Heavenly Domain, were exiled to the Massacre Heavenly Domain. It could be said that the Massacre Heavenly Domain was the combination of all evil. It was a completely negative hell. In the Massacre Heavenly Domain, there were no rules or restrictions. The creatures inside could do whatever they wanted. They could burn, kill, rob, and do anything. The Saintess of the Phoenix people also warned him that in the Massacre Heavenly Domain, the newcomers would be easily targeted. Because the newcomers had just entered, their energy was the most abundant. Their strength didn't decrease too much. In order to reduce the threat, the experts in the Massacre Heavenly Domain would usually recruit the newcomers first. If the recruitment failed, they would directly kill the newcomers to prevent future trouble. Damn it, the Black King tricked me. Zhuon was a little angry. He had bet with the Black King and won in the end, but this guy had pointed him in the wrong direction. Zhuon communicated with the Saintess of the Phoenix people. He asked her if she knew anything about the Massacre Heavenly Domain and if she had a specific map of the Massacre Heavenly Domain. Unfortunately, the Saintess of the Phoenix people didn't know much about the Massacre Heavenly Domain. She only knew that the Massacre Heavenly Domain was not simple. It was a place of evil. As for the map of the Massacre Heavenly Domain, it was even more impossible for her to have it. However, the Saintess of the Phoenix people had told him that there were cases of cultivators leaving the Massacre Heavenly Domain alive and entering the primitive heavenly domain. However, such cases were very rare. In fact, it was very rare. Zhuon's eyes lit up. It seemed that the Massacre Heavenly Domain was not invulnerable. There was a way to leave. What he was most afraid of was that the Massacre Heavenly Domain was a place where one could enter but could not leave. If that was the case, no matter how hard he tried, it would be useless. Since the Massacre Heavenly Domain is filled with exiled cultivators, there must be a lot of people here. I have to understand the Massacre Heavenly Domain first. If I could find out the way to leave this place, that would be the best. Zhuon muttered to himself. He slowly stood up and looked ahead. His eyes were like lightning. He stomped his right foot and rushed in that direction. 2 hours later, Zhuon stopped in front of a huge celestial pillar. His forehead and body were covered in sweat. The Massacre Heavenly Domain is really terrifying. The longer I stay in here, the more my energy will be drained away. Zhuon looked serious. His original human body was in the big world. The one in the Massacre Heavenly Domain was his doppelganger. Although his doppelganger had cultivated the Pangu sacred body, and his physical strength and endurance were much stronger than human cultivators of the same level, the energy of the Pangu sacred body was constantly being consumed as he walked. Chapter 31:10. Immortal Pillar Zhuon's doppelganger had two bloodlines. One was the most primitive bloodline of the King Devourer, and the other was the bloodline of the Pangu's sacred body. Because the bloodline of the Pangu's sacred body was of a much higher level than the bloodline of the King Devourer, the bloodline of the King Devourer was basically unaffected when the doppelganger unleashed the Pangu sacred body in battle. But now, there was no heavenly way energy in the massacre celestial domain. If it didn't hide the bloodline of the Pangu's sacred body, the energy of the Pangu's sacred body would definitely be exhausted in this damned place. The Pangu's sacred body was his last trump card in the massacre celestial domain. He only planned to unleash such a powerful bloodline when he was in danger. If there was no danger, he naturally wouldn't waste his energy. The advancement of the two bloodlines of his doppelganger was synchronized. In other words, his doppelganger's Pangu's sacred body had now reached the late 6-star level, which was equivalent to the late eternal overlord realm. However, the Pangu's sacred body was much stronger than all the cultivators and alien races at the late eternal overlord realm. By analogy, his bloodline of the King Devourer was naturally at the late eternal overlord realm, which was exactly the same as his cultivation base as his original body. Zhuowen sat in the shadow under the immortal pillar, looking up at the 3 scorching suns in the sky with a solemn expression. During the 2 hours of running, Zhuowen also discovered that the 3 scorching suns in the sky were unusual. They were not ordinary scorching suns at all. Even though he had the bloodlines of the King Devourer and the Pangu's sacred body, he felt like a mortal under the scorching sun. He felt very hot and sweaty. He even felt a little thirsty. Suddenly, Zhuowen saw 5 figures running towards the southeast of the immortal pillar. Their target was the immortal pillar where Zhuowen was. When the figures got closer, Zhuowen saw that the 5 figures were 3 men and 2 women. They were pushing 3 carts with large water bags on them. The clothes worn by the 5 of them were tattered and tattered. There were even large holes in some places. The women's hair was messy and casually draped over their shoulders. They didn't care about their appearance at all. Although these people's clothes looked terrible, Zhuowen could still tell from the details of the clothes that if these people's clothes were intact, they would definitely be exquisite and gorgeous. At the same time, what made Zhuowen speechless was that the weapons in their hands were all stone tools. Someone was holding a simple stone axe that was made of a rather sharp stone and a piece of wood. There were also people who held spears made of sharp and slender stones tied to wooden sticks. There were also crudely polished stone swords, and so on. Seeing the weapons in the hands of these 5 people, Zhuowen almost suspected that he was seeing things. Could it be that he had traveled back to the Stone Age? These 5 people had obviously seen the immortal pillar. Their eyes revealed a crazed look, and they quickly ran over barefoot. "You new here?" The man at the front had dark skin and a strong body. He looked to be about 30 years old. He looked down at Zhuowen and noticed that the latter's clothes were so new and exquisite. He stopped and asked coldly, "I'm Zhuowen. I did accidentally enter this place. I want to ask you about the situation here. I wonder if you can tell me." Zhuowen also saw the hostility in the man's eyes, but he didn't care. This man's cultivation was the highest among the 5 people, but he was only the Lord of Xuanji. He was even weaker than the Eternal Overlord. Moreover, this person's cultivation was unstable, and he lacked energy. His combat strength was probably far inferior to the average Lord of Xuanji. In his opinion, he was not worth mentioning at all. If this person overestimated himself and attacked him, he could kill him in an instant. He didn't even need to use the bloodline of the Pangu's sacred body. To Zhuowen's surprise, the strong man laughed and took Zhuowen's hands enthusiastically. He said as if they were familiar with each other, "Brother, you're new here. It's normal that you don't know this place. This place is called the Slaughter Heavenly Domain. It's a subsidiary place of the untainted Heavenly Domain. If you want to talk about it in detail, there's a lot to be said. I'll talk to you about this later. By the way, Brother Zhua, my name is Pang Yong. I see that you're not old, so you can just call me Brother Pang. We plan to clean up this immortal pillar first. Step aside. After we're done, you can come back to the Tiani tribe with us. I'll tell you about the Slaughter Heavenly Domain on the way." Pang Yong's voice was loud and clear. After indicating for Zhuo to retreat a certain distance, he gave the order and led the 4 people behind him to start chopping at the tall celestial pillar. What surprised Zhuan was that the stone tools in the hands of the 5 people were not good-looking, but they were terrifyingly sharp. Pang Yong was holding a stone axe. When he hacked down with the axe, he keenly saw that the surface of the stone axe was flowing with a mysterious light. Driven by the mysterious light, the stone axe cut into the immortal pillar without any hindrance, leaving a huge wound. Pang Yong pulled out the stone axe. From the wound on the immortal pillar, streams of green water gushed out. Pang Yong quickly took the huge water bag from the cart, opened the stopper, and began to collect the green water in front of him. The other 4 people did the same thing as Pang Yong. They used the weapons in their hands to leave a deep wound on the surface of the immortal pillar. They took out their own water bags and continued to collect the green water that gushed out from the wound on the immortal pillar. Zhuan's nostrils flared. He actually smelled the aura of heavenly energy in the green water. However, this aura was very weak. Zhuan was surprised. In this slaughter celestial domain, where heavenly energy did not exist, the water in the immortal pillar actually contained a trace of heavenly energy. This shocked him. Originally, Zhuan wanted to go forward and take some green water to taste. However, when he saw Pang Yong and the others seriously collecting the water, he did not want to disturb them. He could only wait quietly on the side. After about half an hour, the water bags on the cart were all full. The immortal pillar in front of them had completely withered due to the excessive loss of water. Lena, let's continue to dig. This immortal pillar is so big, and the green water is so abundant. Maybe we can find some green stones at the bottom. Pang Yong looked at the group of 2 women, one of whom was a good-looking woman, and ordered indifferently. Lena nodded. She held the stone spear in her jade-like hand, and with a sudden twist of her wrist, the stone spear violently rotated like an electric drill. Suddenly, it swept out and pierced into the immortal pillar. Bang! 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 Waves of yellow sand were pushed out by the stone spear, and the stone spear drilled into the bottom. When the stone spear was half buried in the soil of the wasteland, Lena let go of the stone spear and took a few steps back. Pang Yong strode forward and grabbed the handle of the stone spear with both hands. The muscles on his arms bulged, and he suddenly pressed down. Chapter 31:11. Emerald stone, the immortal pillar's roots were extremely thick and dense, and the distribution of its veins was very complicated. The moment the immortal pillar fell to the ground, Zhuan saw at a glance that at the bottom of the immortal pillar's complex roots, there was a stone that was emitting emerald light. The stone was about half the size of a palm and had an irregular shape. The surface of the stone was flowing with emerald veins and light. If one looked carefully, the veins on the surface of the emerald stone seemed to contain some kind of law, ancient and mysterious. The moment he saw the emerald stone, Zhuan's eyes flashed with a strange light. However, Zhuan quickly regained his composure. Pang Yong and the others did not see Zhuan's strange state. All of their attention was firmly attracted by the emerald stone wrapped in the roots. There really is an emerald stone, and such a big one at that. We're rich. Pang Yong and the other 4's breathing became rapid. They stared at the emerald stone wrapped tightly in the roots with fervent eyes. Immediately, they rushed up in unison and used the weapons in their hands to cut the roots on the immortal pillar. Zhuan silently watched the movements of Pang Yong and the other 4, but he was lost in thought. The moment the emerald stone wrapped in the roots of the immortal pillar appeared, his original body in the great world discovered that the mysterious stone obtained from the blood prison's secret chamber was emitting a blazing light. At that moment, a mysterious energy gushed out from the mysterious stone and spread out like a wave. Many things in the great world were destroyed by this mysterious energy. Even his original body, the Phoenix people's Saintus, and the others spat out a mouthful of blood and suffered serious injuries when this mysterious energy approached them. What the hell is this stone of yours? In the great world, The Phoenix people's saintess looked at the mysterious stone in his original body's hand with fear in her beautiful eyes. This mysterious stone had only emitted a trace of fluctuation, but it had caused her to suffer serious injuries. If the mysterious stone were to completely erupt, wouldn't the entire world be destroyed? None of the living beings in the world would be spared. Zhuowen ignored the furious saintess of the Phoenix people. Instead, he rebuilt an elegant pavilion on the island in the middle of the lake. He carefully put away the mysterious stone and entered the house, leaving behind the saintess of the Phoenix people who was still sulking. Outside the outside world, Zhuowen's clone revealed a thoughtful look. He still hadn't figured out the origins of that mysterious stone. Back then, he had relied on the mysterious energy within the mysterious stone to enter an extremely profound state of comprehension. His alchemy and array Tao had both advanced to the creation realm. How terrifying was that ability? Now, the mysterious stone, which had not moved at all, actually had a different reaction. Pang Yong nodded with satisfaction and opened a water bag from a cart. He took the small kettle from his waist, filled it with the jade water in the water bag, and threw it to Zhuowen. Brother Zhua, in the slaughter heavenly realm, all the harsh environments can be fatal. Even if you're a master of the heavenly realm, if you don't drink water for a long time in this wasteland, you may die of thirst. Zhuowen took the kettle, thanked Pang Yong, opened the kettle, and drank it in one gulp. Suddenly, a sweet and mellow coldness entered his mouth, followed his esophagus, and entered his stomach. After he finished drinking, Zhuowen handed the kettle back to Pang Yong reluctantly. His previous guess was right. The jade water extracted from the immortal pillar did contain heavenly energy, but the amount was too little. According to Zhuowen's estimation, even if he drank all the jade water in the cart, he could only recover 1/10 of the energy he had lost. It could be seen that it was not realistic to rely on the jade water to recover. However, using the jade water to quench his thirst was the best choice. Next, Zhuowen followed Pang Yong's team and walked towards the Tiani tribe. On the way, Pang Yong told Zhuowen in detail about the distribution of forces in the slaughter heavenly realm and the use of the jade stone and jade water. What the slaughter heavenly realm lacked the most was heavenly energy. The air did not contain any level of energy, but the various creatures that grew in the slaughter heavenly realm contained a certain amount of heavenly energy. For example, the jade water flowing from the immortal pillar was the best example. The immortal pillar was a plant. In the slaughter heavenly realm, there were also powerful slaughter beasts. The slaughter beasts were a kind of crazy creature that only knew how to kill and had no intelligence. Once they saw a living creature, they would relentlessly pursue and kill. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.